Phoenix Nights. Chapter 4279. To the people on the heaven roll, Ling Xiao was still just an ant. There was nothing to worry about. The difference between the earth roll and heaven roll was too great. It was so great that they were not on the same level at all. Humph, he's just a little bug. I can easily crush him with one hand. Yu Ruo snorted in disdain. He knew that Ling Xiao had caused a ruckus in the Yu family. However, he was almost 100 years old, and did not have the right to challenge Ling Xiao. Otherwise he would have beaten Ling Xiao into a fool long ago. Yu Hua, who was ranked first on the earth roll, also did not take Ling Xiao seriously. He only has the fate of being ranked 10th on the earth roll. It's impossible for him to improve any further. In the ring, Ling Xiao saw everyone's expressions. Some were surprised, some were mocking him. However, it did not mean anything to him. Under normal circumstances, these people were indeed qualified to mock him. However, he had obtained the demonic epiphyllum, so everything was different. He smiled lightly and turned to leave the ring. Lu Yu looked at Ling Xiao's back and sighed helplessly. He had never fought with Ling Xiao before, so he did not know how terrifying Ling Xiao's strength was. The moment he was sent flying, he could clearly feel a terrifying power in Ling Xiao's body that made him tremble. This power had not been released, but it could already easily defeat him. How terrifying would it be once it was released? Master, I'm sorry to disappoint you. Lu Yu looked at his master and smiled bitterly. No, you've already tried your best. This is not your fault. He's too strong. Master, I don't know if it's an illusion, but I feel that Ling Xiao is going to make big news. Lu Yu smiled bitterly. Then let's wait and see. Also, you have to continue working hard. Got it, Master. Lu Yu was not depressed because he lost to Ling Xiao. On the contrary, he was very calm. There was nothing to be embarrassed about losing to such a person. The competition continued. It was still the 6th group. This time, it was Shueya. She was ranked 10th on the earth roll. However, everyone had clearly underestimated Shueya. Other than Yu Feng, Lu Qi, Lu Yu, and Ling Xiao, her opponent was the only other person in the 4th group who was undefeated. However, this person was only able to withstand a single blow from her before he was defeated. Shueya also revealed her true cultivation level, the early stage of the extreme core stage. After defeating her opponent, Shueya looked at Ling Xiao provocatively. It was as if he was trying to say that he was stronger than Ling Xiao. However, Ling Xiao did not look at him. At this moment, Ling Xiao's gaze was directed towards another arena. There, Ling Xiaojiao had just defeated her opponent. Damn it, don't let me meet you later. Otherwise, I'll definitely let you know how powerful I am. Shueya gritted her teeth and walked down the arena. She hated being looked down upon the most. Soon, the first round of Group SIX's second elimination round ended. They entered the second round of the competition. The first match of the second round, Dao Shuilan vs. Shen Dao. Hearing this voice, Chen Dao's complexion instantly changed. How unlucky! I didn't expect to meet Dao Shuilan so soon. Chen Dao wanted to admit defeat. However, he felt that it was too embarrassing. It was said that Dao Shuilan's cultivation level was at the shattered core stage. However, in reality, Dao Shuilan did not show it in the previous battles. She had always been fighting with the combat power of the extreme core stage. What if I win? Chen Dao went up the arena with the mentality of a fluke. Dao Shuilan also went up the arena expressionlessly. Although Chen Dao is powerful, he actually dared to challenge Dao Shuilan. Isn't he asking for trouble? Someone laughed. Yeah, Dao Shuilan is ranked 6th on the heaven leaderboard. Chen Dao is only ranked 9th on the earth leaderboard. The gap is too big. Hee, I don't know what Chen Dao is thinking. Anyway, I definitely admit defeat. Just as everyone was discussing, Dao Shuilan suddenly spoke. 30 years ago, we fought at the same cultivation level. I lost miserably to you. Today, I'll control my cultivation level to the middle stage of the extreme core stage. Let's fight again. I didn't expect Dao Shuilan and Chen Dao to have such a grudge. But Dao Shuilan's method is a bit impulsive. She could have used her cultivation level to suppress him. This is the pride of a genius. That's true. Most of the geniuses I've seen are like this. But if this is the case, it's hard to say who will win. Yes. This battle might become even more interesting. While everyone was discussing, Qingdao laughed. I haven't seen you for 30 years and you're still so arrogant. It's just that the genius of the past has grown into an existence that I can't look down on. Qingdao took a deep breath, then exhaled. But are you sure? You'll lose. Dao Shuilan smiled. I've said it before. If I lose, I'll admit that I'm unlucky. If I can't defeat you at the same cultivation level, I won't be able to get rid of my inner demons. All right, if that's the case, then come at me. Qingdao didn't waste time. This was an opportunity for him. Since his opponent lowered her cultivation level to fight him, he had a high chance of winning. After all, 30 years ago, Dao Shuilan had been defeated by him. Although his opponent's cultivation level had far surpassed his because of her talent, that defeat would never change. Kill! Qingdao chose a heavy broadsword from the weapon rack. Then, his figure flashed as he pounced on Dao Shuilan. When he was 7 or 8 meters away from Dao Shuilan, the broadsword suddenly slashed down. The sound of it breaking through the air was like a mountain collapsing. It gave people the feeling that it was not a saber, but a sharp mountain range. A giant blade from beyond the heavens. Dao Shuilan looked at her opponent silently. The broadsword in his hand was a slender tang sword. Ling Xiao had seen this type of broadsword before. It didn't look like much, but whether it was a slash or a stab, it was extremely powerful. The moment Qingdao's broadsword slashed down, Dao Shuilan waved the tang sword in her hand to meet it. Clang! A crisp sound of collision rang out. The sky was filled with flashes of light. Heavy Blade's attack, which looked powerful enough to split open the arena, was easily blocked by Dao Shuilan. The most surprising thing was that Dao Shuilan's arm didn't tremble at all. In the air, a faint blue light could be seen flickering. Interesting, using the water element to weaken the opponent's attack, and then easily blocking it. Wonderful! Ling Xiao smiled slightly. If it was a head-on clash, Dao Shuilan wouldn't be able to block Qingdao's terrifying attack. But Dao Shuilan's technique had been perfected. He probably specialized in water-type vital essence, and his martial soul was probably related to water. Water could create resistance, causing the opponent's attack to be greatly weakened. This is Dao Shuilan's famous technique, the flowing water broadsword technique. But he obviously controlled the power of the broadsword technique. Otherwise, this kind of martial skill at the peak of the 9th level of the martial emperor realm could completely crush the heavy saber. Someone beside him said. It seemed like there were many hidden talents in this crowd. Ling Xiao didn't know what broadsword technique it was, but they did. Please remember the domain name of this book. Come read the mobile version website. Chapter 4280. So what if it's the flowing water knife technique? You won't be able to unleash its true power if we're of the same cultivation. Although he said that, Qingdao's expression was serious. Dao Shuilan was very strong. Even if she lowered her cultivation to his level, she was still very strong. Letting out a long breath, Qingdao began to channel his true essence into the large knife in his hand. A crimson color appeared on the large knife. It emitted a terrifyingly high temperature. At the same time, a fiery red demon wolf appeared behind him. That should be his martial soul, Fire Cloud Wolf Soul. Dao Shuilan, you'll still lose today! Heavenly Fire 9 slashes! Following Qingdao's roar, the entire arena seemed to be engulfed in flames. For a moment, Qingdao's figure was nowhere to be seen. Only the terrifying flames pounced on Dao Shuilan. Dao Shuilan's expression remained unchanged. A water dragon spiraled up, forming a spiraling water column around his body. Bang! The flaming blade finally slashed down, but it was blocked by the water dragon. Although Qingdao's move was very strong and strange, normal warriors wouldn't be able to tell where his real body was. It was even more impossible to block his attack. But Dao Shuilan's defense was also very strong. Although he was a swordsman, Dao Shuilan could control the water element. The fiery red knife continued to slash down, but it was blocked by the roaring water dragon. One after another. Water splashed everywhere. Fire boiled. Fire and water engaged in the most intense battle in the arena. The scene was truly thrilling. Heavenly Fire 9 slashes. It was the 9 slashes. One after another, it wouldn't stop. Once used, he had to defeat his opponent. Bang! The 9th slash. He actually managed to chop the water dragon and scatter it. Dao Shuilan was also forced back dozens of steps by the roaring flames. If the arena wasn't big enough, he would have lost. The audience was so nervous that they even forgot to cheer. Even breathing felt like a waste of time. In the next moment, Dao Shuilan, who had retreated, finally launched a counterattack. He was obviously waiting for this moment. The moment Chen Dao finished using the 9 slashes, it was time for him to counterattack. The knife came, and the water dragon roared again. It opened its mouth and pounced on Chen Dao. It was even more powerful than the Heavenly Fire 9 slashes. Boom! Although Chen Dao desperately tried to resist, he was still knocked out and fell dozens of meters away, almost falling out of the ring. Bah! As expected, he's not easy to deal with. Chen Dao climbed up and looked coldly at Dao Shuilan. Let's decide the victor with this attack. Sure! Dao Shuilan seemed to want to completely defeat Chen Dao and resolve her inner demons, as long as Chen Dao did not surrender. In that case, this battle would have to continue. Moreover, he wanted Chen Dao to accept his defeat wholeheartedly. Chen Dao nodded. The howling fire cloud wolf soul behind him merged into his weapon. Instead of fusing his physical body with the wolf soul, he chose to fuse his weapon with the wolf soul. This was also a choice. The long saber that had fused with the fire cloud wolf soul seemed to have become another weapon. It was filled with a ferocious aura, and even its appearance had changed. Fire cloud critical strike! Lose for me! Brandishing his long blade, a ferocious fire wolf roared. Many people below the stage covered their ears. That sound was real, and it was very ear-piercing. This terrifying aura was as if the fire cloud wolf, an ancient beast, had come back to life. One claw seemed to be able to split the sky and the earth. Is this Chen Dao's strength? It is indeed terrifying! Someone exclaimed. A warrior in the middle stage of the ultimate core realm is not to be trifled with. Can Dao Shuilan block this sure-kill move? She should be able to. After all, Dao Shuilan is an expert in the Shattered Core Realm. Even if she can't break through the Shattered Core Realm, her experience is there. Ling Xiao looked at Dao Shuilan. This person would definitely become one of his strongest opponents in the future. In this selection, he wanted to use the demonic epiphyllum to defeat all the heroes. But next time, he wanted to rely on his true strength. Water dragon roar, dragon emerges from the sea! Dao Shuilan shouted coldly and stabbed out with the saber in her hand. A huge water dragon seemed to rise from the deep sea. Its blue body was about to completely extinguish the firewolf. Rumble! The entire arena let out a huge roar. The light wall also shook violently, like a plastic bag blown by a strong wind. If it were not for the light wall, the spectators would have been injured by the radiating saber chi. Ah, pff! The fire wolf collapsed with a sorrowful cry. Chen Dao spat out a mouthful of blood and was sent flying out of the arena. Dao Shuilan did not look good either. She had forcefully lowered her cultivation and did not recover at the last moment. So this collision could be said to be a lose-lose situation. It was just that Chen Dao looked even more miserable than him. Dao Shuilan wins! The puppet judge's cold voice rang out. Rumble! Suddenly, a terrifying force bloomed from Dao Shuilan's body. This guy's cultivation had broken through the moment he killed his inner demon. Oh my god, he actually broke through. If this is the case, the heaven list will have to be rearranged. Amazing, he is also a man. He forcefully lowered his cultivation to fight. It is very dangerous. Fortunately, the result is not bad. He is really scary. After breaking through, Dao Shuilan walked out of the arena and went to rest. Although the injury was not serious, if he entered the final stage and faced a shattered core realm warrior, it would be very dangerous. So he had to be careful. The sixth group's situation is really confusing. Chapter 4281. Not only had Shuya reached the early stage of the extreme core realm, but she had also reached the early stage of the extreme core realm. Moreover, the Blood Spirit Church had a special blood demon incarnation, which was even more terrifying than ordinary demonization. Of course, Ling Zhao's previous performance was too outstanding. As a result, people did not think that he would lose to Shuya. Don't think that you can be complacent just because you defeated Lu Yu. I'm not that kind of trash. Shuya looked at Ling Xiao and snorted coldly. I'm not complacent either. Ling Xiao shook his head and said with a bitter smile, defeating a perfect heavenly core warrior is nothing to be proud of. How arrogant! Are heavenly core warriors nothing in your eyes? Shuya said furiously. You can say that. Those who know me should know that I am invincible under the heavenly core realm. Ling Xiao chuckled. It takes courage to say something like that, said Meng Hao. Even so, I'm at the early stage of the ultimate stage of core. Just lose for me. Blood Devil Storm! Shuya was the first to attack. The weapon this woman used was rather strange. It was actually a fan. The fan was made of pure metal. The organizers must have worked hard to get their hands on such an unpopular weapon. As she shouted, Shuya waved her fan. For a moment, the blood-red light flourished. A blood-red storm was released from her fan, and then it roared and raged towards Ling Xiao. It enveloped the entire arena. Ling Xiao had nowhere to run. To be honest, you'd better demonize. Otherwise, it'll be boring. As he spoke, Ling Xiao flicked the sword in his hand. A beam of sword chi bloomed in the void. It directly cut the storm into two halves. It was like cutting a piece of paper. Shuya jumped in fright. She was afraid that Ling Xiao would suddenly pursue her, so she hurriedly retreated a few steps. However, Ling Xiao didn't move at all. He stood there and said indifferently, demonize and play with me. Next, I might not be so easy to deal with. Ling Xiao was very clear that once he encountered Luo Shui and Qin Dao, he would have to use the power of the demonic epiphyllum. Although it was only a part of his strength. At that time, Shuya would not be worth mentioning in front of him. All right, I'll fulfill your wish. Demonize! Shuya chose to demonize, and a blood-red light burst out from her body. The surrounding air was dyed red. Blood Devil Hurricane, wreak havoc in the world! The moment after the demonization, Shuya launched an attack. The storm turned into a hurricane. Although the range of the attack didn't increase, its power had increased by dozens of times. She had been torn apart by Ling Zhao's sword before, but this time, she did not believe that Ling Xiao could do it again. But she seemed to have forgotten. She wasn't the only one who knew martial arts. Crimson Blood Sky Drilling Rat, Nine Heavens Ice Dragon, Flying Flaming Lion, Shining Tiger of Holy Light. The fourth stage of the 12 Divine Beasts technique. Erupt. As the long sword in Ling Zhao's hand condensed a terrifying killing intent. 4 beasts appeared out of thin air. Then, the power fused into one. He pounced on his opponent. That destructive power had far surpassed Shuya's attack. Boom! The 12 divine beasts art collided with the Blood Devil Hurricane. The two violent powers were in a stalemate for a moment. The Blood Devil Hurricane was torn apart. Then, the terrifying power crashed into Shuya like a 10,000-ton ship. Shuya was like a fish that was sent flying. She fell to the ground. Defeated. A crushing defeat. Crack. Perhaps it was because it had endured too much power, but the weapon in Ling Zhao's hand actually cracked. Although it was a celestial-grade Heavenly King artifact weapon, the ones provided by the organizer were the worst. They couldn't withstand such a powerful attack at all. Is this really an Earth Core Realm cultivator? How could he unleash such a terrifying attack? The power of this attack is probably close to a high-level 9th Order Emperor, right? That's a height that Shuya can't reach. He's indeed a monster. In the crowd, the more the Fire Emperor looked at him, the more he liked him. He had to protect Ling Xiao. Even without the previous bet, he had to protect him. He was a treasure. Ling Xiao's victory might not be a surprise, but the ease with which he won surprised many people. Including the first stage of the elimination round, he has already won 12 rounds in a row. Can this record still be maintained? I think it's difficult. Whether it's Luo Shui, Qin Dao, or Dao Shuilan, this record will come to an abrupt end. Instead of watching him win consecutively, it's better to watch Xu Qiren and Ling Jiaojiao win consecutively. Damn it! Shuya was lifted up by the blood spirit sect and fed a healing pill. However, although her body was much better now, her spirit had suffered a blow. She had actually lost. And she had lost just like that. Don't worry, junior sister. I will avenge you, Xinyan said indifferently. There's no need, senior brother. If you go against him, you'll be bullying him. It's meaningless. He defeated me with a cultivation base lower than mine. I accept my loss wholeheartedly. Shuya shook her head. Revenge? She didn't have such thoughts. She just felt that it was a pity to lose like this. However, she had already experienced Ling Xiao's strength. Ling Xiao naturally didn't know that Shuya's opinion of him had changed. At this moment, he was paying attention to the match of the woman in green. Although the woman in green worked very hard, her cultivation base was still lacking and she was defeated again. If there were no accidents, the woman in green wouldn't be able to enter the finals. However, this girl seemed to be very happy. She should have achieved her goal. The 6th group's match continued. The next battle was between Luo Shui and another expert. Luo Shui and Qin Dao's cultivation base were on par. Their strength was also on par. Therefore, everyone treated them as cultivators of the same level. The result of the battle was that Luo Shui defeated her opponent with 1 strike and eliminated her opponent. There was nothing strange about this, because everyone felt that she should win. Her opponent's cultivation base was much lower than hers. However, there were some crazy words that caused Luo Shui to lose his composure. Everyone was saying that perhaps Ling Xiao was qualified to challenge Luo Shui and Qin Dao. Nonsense! Although that Ling Xiao can defeat cultivators at the early stage of the extreme core stage. But against us, he's not worth mentioning at all, Qin Dao said fiercely. Brother, no matter who meets that Ling Xiao, we have to teach him a lesson. Let him completely fall. Luo Shui gritted her teeth. That's natural. We definitely can't let this brat be rampant. Qin Dao nodded. The two of them had previously disdained Ling Xiao, but now they were very concerned. In fact, even they didn't realize that they were already very concerned about Ling Xiao. They even had a fear of Ling Xiao. In the following battles, Luo Shui and Qin Dao still won round after round. Ling Xiao's luck was good, and he didn't meet either of them. He also didn't meet Dao Shuilan. Therefore, he still maintained his winning streak. But the more he won, the more Luo Shui and Qin Dao couldn't stand it. It was too unpleasant. Qin Dao had lost a match, but Ling Xiao could win consecutively. This dog's luck was really high. They paid so much attention to Ling Xiao, but Ling Xiao didn't have the slightest interest in them. After his battle ended, Ling Xiao would pay attention to the people he cared about. Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile version update website, M. Chapter 4282. The 6 group's matches were extremely intense. The other group's matches weren't easy either. In the first group, Qi Niming defeated Yu Ruo, who was also at the Shattered Core Realm. But Yu Ruo was at the 2nd level of the Shattered Core Realm. This scene caused countless people to cheer. Defeating someone who was at a higher level than you was always exciting. Because he had defeated Yu Ruo, he was now ranked 9th on the heavenly ranking. In the second group, Qi Yaowang was defeated again, and it was a terrible defeat. Her opponent was none other than Yu Hua from the Qiu family, the number 1 on the Earth ranking. There was nothing they could do, the gap between their cultivation levels was too big. Yu Hua was at the perfect core realm, while Qiaoguang was only at the early core realm. After seeing the result of this match, Ling Xiao put Yu Hua on his kill list. In the third group, He Zhu was lucky. She met a perfect heavenly core warrior and won the match. But the situation wasn't looking good for her. Whether she could advance to the next round would depend on her luck. In the fourth group, Yu Qilian's opponent admitted defeat right away. He didn't even have the courage to step onto the stage. In the fifth group, Yu Zhongzong killed his opponent without hesitation. His opponent didn't even have the chance to fight back. This guy, he is definitely a human devil king. Ling Xiao was sure that this cruel Yu Zhongzong had been possessed by a human devil king. Second elimination round, 6th round, 5th match, Ling Xiao vs. Chen Dao. Hearing this, the audience suddenly cheered. In the end, Ling Xiao wasn't able to avoid such a powerful warrior. He was only ranked 10th on the Earth ranking. Chen Dao was ranked 7th on the Earth ranking. He was only defeated by Dao Shuilan. For Ling Xiao, this match wasn't easy. But for the audience, they were very excited. They loved watching a super duel like this. A duel between two mighty warriors. Can Ling Xiao win? It'll be difficult. Chen Dao is at the mid-core realm, and Ling Xiao's cultivation is still too low. I think so too. Let's see how many attacks he can take. I reckon Ling Xiao's winning streak will come to an end. Seeing that Chen Dao doesn't seem to like him, I reckon he'll teach him a lesson. Chen Dao impatiently jumped onto the ring, extremely excited. Finally, the opportunity to knock Ling Xiao off his pedestal had arrived. Although it was only temporary, Chen Dao was not used to others praising Ling Xiao so much. Based on what? Wasn't he just a perfect Earth Core Realm warrior? Chen Dao did not change his weapon, it was still the powerful and heavy broadsword. Although he had lost to Dao Shuilan, he did not think that he would lose to Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao took out 2 swords. To others, 2 swords were 2 swords, and there would be no change. But to Ling Xiao, having 2 swords meant that his battle prowess had doubled. Hee, do you think you can defeat me just because you have an extra sword? Chen Dao disdainfully smiled and said, Let me remind you, I'm very unhappy right now. I really want to make an example of you. So if you don't want to get hurt, just surrender. I'm not the kind of person who has to kill his opponent. Domineering, as expected of Chen Dao. With a high cultivation, you have guts, not putting Ling Xiao in your eyes at all. In the Yu family's stands, Yu Qiren sneered. This Ling Xiao has no way out. Usually, he can rely on his 2 subordinates to be rampant. But in this ring, he can only rely on himself. Either you admit defeat, or you'll lose face, or you might even be killed. Hearing this, Ling Jiaojiao slightly frowned, but did not say anything. She did not want to expose herself now. Moreover, she also believed that her brother could win. Since Yuhua Town, she knew that Ling Xiao was the kind of person who could constantly create miracles. Don't underestimate him too much. Yu Xiangtian no longer dared to underestimate Ling Xiao. This kid had won the alchemy conference, and then set up a ring in the Yu family to defeat Yu Qiong. Every single one of them was beyond his expectations. Therefore, he really had no confidence in Ling Xiao now. He did not know what the upper limit of this kid's strength was. Father, you think too highly of him. Yu Qiren was somewhat unconvinced. His father, Yu Xiangtian, had always been whispering in his ear what a genius Ling Xiao was, and it was a pity that he was not a member of the Yu family. This made him very unhappy. Therefore, he very much hoped that Ling Xiao would lose. On the ring, Ling Xiao played with the 2 swords in his hands. He looked at Chen Dao with a smile and said, If I were you, I would not lose to Dao Shuilan just now. This was really touching the pot that did not boil. A handful of salt was directly sprinkled on Chen Dao's wound. Chen Dao's face instantly darkened. You're courting death. Chen Dao no longer expected Ling Xiao to admit defeat. Obviously, this kid had a bull's temper. He could only use strength to defeat him and make him kneel. The large blade pointed at Ling Xiao, and a violent blade intent was released, pouncing towards Ling Xiao like a flood. It wanted to completely engulf Ling Xiao. Very interesting aura. However, it's impossible for you to defeat me with just your aura. Ling Xiao shook his head and said, Make your move, let me see how strong an intermediate stage alchemy realm martial artist is. He had no intention of using the demonic epiphyllum, because it was not necessary for the time being. He would only use it when he absolutely had to. And obviously, Qin Dao was not qualified. From the previous battle between Qin Dao and Dao Shuilan, he could tell that Qin Dao loved to fight big and wide battles. He blindly faced the enemy head-on, and emphasized aura and strength to suppress the opponent. There was no technique to speak of. In addition, Qin Dao's attribute seemed to be fire. This made Ling Xiao his nemesis. So in this battle, Ling Xiao felt that not only did he not need to use the power of the demonic epiphyllum, he did not even need to use the power of the Sky Tyrant martial soul. He could win with technique alone. Heavenly Fire 9 slashes! As soon as he attacked, Qin Dao used the blade technique that he had used against Dao Shuilan. But he did not release his martial soul. It was as if he felt that defeating Ling Xiao this way would show his strength. The fiery blade aura that covered the sky instantly reached Ling Xiao's head. To deal with Ling Xiao, Qin Dao gave up all techniques. He used pure strength to suppress him. The first style of the 23 dragon-subduing swords, piercing the dragon's eye. Ling Xiao saw the opportunity and suddenly moved. His figure flashed. The long sword in his right hand used a sword technique, directly hitting the weakest part of Qin Dao's attack. Then, his left hand released a ray of dragon-subduing sword aura, heading straight for Qin Dao. Both hands attacked almost at the same time. It still shocked countless people. Bang! The first attack was blocked, and he was almost injured by the sword aura. This made Qin Dao's face even darker. But the second slash of the Heavenly Fire 9 slashes had already landed. What was even more ferocious was that it was as if an alchemy furnace in the Heavenly Court had been kicked over. Raging flames were released. It was filled with a terrifying aura. Seeing this scene, many of the participating warriors and spectators sucked in a breath of cold air. Because they felt that if it were them, they would definitely not be able to block this attack. They would definitely be defeated by this torrential aura. Chapter 4283. Dragon Subduing 23 Swords, Second Style, Destruction Dragon Horn. But Ling Xiao was calmer than anyone else. The other party's attack power was incomparably powerful. He could not clash head-on. But the Tai Chi accurately captured the weakness of the other party's saber technique. He took advantage of the situation and charged out. This sword, the power was also stronger than the first sword. At the same time, another streak of dragon-subduing sword chi was released from his left hand. The target was still Qin Dao's vital point. Although this dragon-subduing sword chi was unable to cause fatal damage to Qin Dao, it gave Qin Dao a headache. Damn it! How can it be like this? My attack is clearly stronger than his. But each time, it was blocked by him and cracked by him. It even made him counterattack. Why? Qin Dao could not understand, because he was not that kind of meticulous person at all. I don't believe it, kill! Heavenly Fire 9 Slash's third blade continued to fall. Ling Xiao repeated the same trick. It was just that the move was changed. Dragon Subduing 23 Swords was already used to the third style. Furthermore, it was a double attack. Qin Dao released saber techniques like crazy. Fourth slash. Fifth slash. All the way to the ninth slash. And Ling Xiao's current dragon subduing 23 swords also reached the ninth style. 9 consecutive strikes, the power increased nearly 9 times. It actually knocked the weapon in Qin Dao's hand flying out with one sword. In addition, the 9th streak of dragon subduing sword chi even pierced through Qin Dao's arm. Sigh, you really disappoint me too much. Ling Xiao sighed and said. Originally thought that you would bring me a wonderful battle. But unfortunately your performance was too poor. Your fighting style, it's impossible to even be Yu Qiong's match. Let's end this boring battle. Ling Xiao shook his head lightly. 2 swords attacked together. 10th sword. 11th sword. 21 sword. One sword was stronger than the other. When it reached the 22nd sword, the power was already 22 times of the first style. The Qin Dao without a weapon was crushed very miserably. His body was already full of wounds. Dragon subduing 23 swords final style. Dragon subduing no regrets. Swoosh. Bang. The horrifying long sword pierced through Qin Dao's body, directly sending Qin Dao flying, landing below the stage. I still have to thank you, letting me unleash all 23 swords. Even if you don't want to lose, you will lose. Looking at the fallen Qin Dao, Ling Xiao threw the 2 swords into the weapon rack. Then, he turned around and walked down the ring. Everyone was dumbfounded. In fact, even Ling Xiao himself was surprised. He originally thought that he would need to borrow the power of the heavenly demon Dutchman's flower to deal with martial art practitioners in the middle stage of the extreme stage of the Dan realm. Even if he didn't rely on this, he would have to use the power of the giant devil or the tyrant martial spirit. Who would have thought that the heavy blade would actually allow him to display all of the 23 dragon-subduing swords? Once the 23 strike combo was unleashed, its final power could even reach 100-fold. A 22 combo was about 22 times. However, once it was fully unleashed, its power would increase exponentially. This was the fearsomeness of a combo martial skill. Therefore, when ordinary martial artists fought, if they discovered that the other party had this kind of move, they would absolutely not allow it to continue. He had to interrupt it. Otherwise, if he was allowed to use it, there would be no end to the situation. F***ck, I really didn't expect that Ling Xiao would actually win. And he won so easily? I'm starting to wonder what level his true strength has reached. Perfect Earth Core realm? It must be fake. No one would believe that Ling Xiao's cultivation level was only at the perfect Earth Core realm. There had never been a perfect Earth Core realm martial artist who could defeat a mid-core realm martial artist. It was too inconceivable. His winning streak is still going on. I suspect that he's still hiding his strength. It must be. I really want to see how many trump cards he has. In the 6th group, I'm afraid that other than Dao Shuilan, no one else can be his opponent. I even suspect that he's really just an Earth ranking expert. Maybe we should put him on the Heaven ranking. In the stands, Lu Yu, who had been paying attention to Ling Xiao, smiled bitterly. As expected, I felt that this guy wasn't simple. I didn't expect him to be so abnormal. He had even defeated a warrior in the middle stage of the extreme stage of Dan. Is there anything he can't do? Moreover, it seems that the power in his body hasn't been released yet. It seems that his winning streak will continue. Luo Shui's expression wasn't good. Chen Dao had lost to Ling Xiao, which meant that it was basically impossible for her to defeat Ling Xiao. Her strength was almost the same as Chen Dao's. They often exchanged pointers, and the chances of winning and losing were almost 50%. It's okay. As long as he doesn't finish using those 23 swords, he can win, Chen Dao said weakly. This time, he was sent flying by Ling Xiao, and his injuries weren't light. Brother, rest well. I will avenge you. Luo Shui clenched her teeth. She stared at Ling Xiao. She believed that her battle with Ling Xiao would come sooner or later. In the Yu family stands, Yu Qiren's mouth twitched. He was slapped in the face again. He thought that Ling Xiao would lose this time. But the reality was exactly the opposite of what he had expected. Thinking about how he had said that Ling Xiao would be miserable if he didn't admit defeat, it sounded really ironic. Qiren, don't worry. No matter how strong he is not your opponent. Yu Xiangtian found that Yu Qiren's heart was in a mess, so he reminded him. Father, don't worry. I won't be stubborn. Yu Qiren let out a long breath. Yes, it didn't matter if Ling Xiao won or lost to Chen Dao. For him, it didn't have much impact. In any case, Ling Xiao couldn't be his opponent. Your sword skills are very interesting. Unfortunately, your cultivation is too low. Suddenly, a voice sounded. Jian Wuqing rose into the air and looked at Ling Xiao on the stage. If you and I are similar in cultivation, I really want to fight to my heart's content with you. There will be a chance. Cultivation is not a problem. Ling Xiao glanced at Jian Wuqing indifferently. Jian Wuqing was ranked 5th on the heaven list, above Dao Shuilan. From this, one could see how strong he was. Jian Wuqing didn't pay much attention to Ling Xiao before this. Until Ling Xiao unleashed the 23 dragon subduing swords, the power of the combo had aroused his interest. Interesting. Hearing Ling Xiao's answer, Jian Wuqing was startled. Cultivation is not a problem? What does that mean? Jian Wuqing didn't understand either. The audience was even more confused. But everyone was looking forward to seeing if Ling Xiao would really encounter Jian Wuqing. Perhaps at that time, they would know what Ling Xiao's words meant. However, this incident didn't affect the progress of the competition. The elimination round was still going on in an orderly manner. Soon, the second stage of the elimination round had entered the 7th round. Thank you for letting me win! Ling Xiao defeated his opponent with a single sword strike and won this round. His opponent this time was really weak. He was only a perfect heavenly core warrior. He didn't need to waste too much energy. Before this, there were even some warriors who chose to surrender and didn't want to fight with him in order to preserve their strength. Looking at it now, it was a wise decision. Genius 1 second. Remember this site address. Mobile version reading website. Chapter 4284. The elimination round continued, and finally reached the 9th round of the second stage. Second stage, 9th round, 3rd match, Ling Xiao against Luo Shui. Who would have thought that not only did this Ling Xiao encounter the heavy blade, he even encountered Luo Shui. Luo Shui is ranked 6th on the Earth board, slightly higher than the heavy blade. I wonder who will win. I think it will be Luo Shui. Ling Xiao has already exposed his greatest reliance, which is the 23 sword combo. Actually, as long as he can stop the 23 sword combo, then he should be able to win. That's not necessarily true. Who can guarantee that Ling Xiao doesn't have any other trump cards? Don't forget, Ling Xiao hasn't revealed his true strength until now. Everyone discussed spiritedly, each expressing their own opinions. Clearly, they all had their own opinions. No one could convince anyone. Therefore, in this battle, they still had to see the final result. On the stage, Ling Xiao and Luo Shui stood 50 meters apart. In Luo Shui's eyes, there was an intense hatred. She had been waiting for this battle for a long time. It was all for the sake of avenging the heavy blade. She and the heavy blade were lovers. She absolutely could not allow the heavy blade to be bullied by others. Luo Shui was not an expert in weapons. She was more proficient in using secret techniques to attack the enemy. Furthermore, she was proficient in ice secret techniques. As soon as she went on stage, the stage seemed to instantly turn cold, emitting creaking sounds. If one looked carefully, they would discover that a layer of ice had already appeared on the surface of the stage. Different from the heavy blade, Luo Shui did not dare to underestimate her opponent. With the previous example, she was naturally not stupid. In the air, more and more snowflakes filled the air. Luo Shui seemed to have transformed into an ice beauty. Glacier explosion. Following a delicate sound, Luo Shui took the initiative to attack. Her figure slid on the stage, and the entire battlefield seemed to belong to her. The berserk ice spike was incomparably huge, directly piercing towards Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao stared at this attack, his face solemn. He could feel the difference between Luo Shui and the heavy blade. The heavy blade's attacks were wide open. Against a technical type of opponent like him, he would definitely be at a disadvantage. But Luo Shui was different. This woman was extremely skilled. It was not easy for Ling Xiao to catch her weakness. Since that's the case, let's face them head on. Ling Xiao gritted his teeth. With a shake of the sword in his hand, a roaring flying flame lion pounced forward. They turned into raging flames. Water counters fire, but fire counters ice. Ling Xiao had his reasons for choosing the flying flaming lion as his opening line. Rumble! Ice shards flew everywhere as the two attacks collided. A large amount of white water vapor was produced. The scene looked extremely exaggerated. However, the difference between Ling Xiao's cultivation and his opponent's was too great. This strike caused him to rapidly retreat, while Luo Shui continued to rush forward. He wanted to completely suppress Ling Xiao. First dragon subduing sword, piercing the dragon's eye. However, what Luo Shui did not expect was that Ling Xiao was actually able to unleash a sword skill even as he was retreating. Moreover, it was the piercing dragon's eye that had been prepared long ago. Seeing this sword, Luo Shui had no choice but to stop his pursuit. Her expression became heavy. Previously, Ling Xiao had used this sword skill to form a combo and finally defeated Chen Dao. She absolutely could not allow Ling Xiao to have the chance to unleash these 23 sword moves. Falling plumb clear shadow steps. In the process of retreating at high speed, Ling Xiao displayed an exquisite movement technique. His figure suddenly disappeared. Luo Shui frowned. Before going on stage, she did not notice that Ling Xiao was so difficult to deal with. Clearly, the power of her every attack was stronger than Ling Xiao's. But now, she actually had to defend. This made her feel a little unbalanced. However, since Ling Xiao had already launched an attack, she had to be careful. Ice Storm! Since she could not see where Ling Xiao's figure was, she could only use an area of effect attack. Her body was wrapped in a thick layer of wind and snow. Anyone who dared to approach would definitely be attacked. Although the lethality was not enough, as long as the opponent was exposed, it was enough. Crack! A figure charged into the ice storm. Glacier explosion! Luo Shui confirmed Ling Xiao's location. She hurriedly withdrew her ice storm and charged over. There was no other way. If she wanted to maintain her ice storm, then the power of the glacier explosion would become extremely weak. It would definitely not work. What? Just as Luo Shui was about to attack Ling Xiao's figure, she suddenly felt a terrifying sense of danger. By the time she reacted, it was already too late. A sword directly pierced through her body. Luo Shui grimaced in pain. She hurriedly flashed and fled to the edge of the stage. A clone? She frowned. She did not expect Ling Xiao to have this kind of trick. The speed at which you withdrew your ice storm is too fast. I purposely let you discover my true body. Naturally, you will not suspect me. Then my doppelganger would attack. Although the attack of the falling plum shadow clone is only about 90% of my attack. But it is enough to injure you. Ling Xiao smiled faintly. Bloodthirsty plague. Releasing the bloodthirsty plague while the opponent was injured would naturally have the best effect. Ling Xiao could feel that Luo Shui was not easy to deal with, although it seemed that he had a slight advantage now. But in fact, it was impossible. If this continued, he would not be able to defeat Luo Shui. 23 dragons subduing swords was possible. But the opponent would definitely be on guard. This would be too much of a waste of time. Therefore, the release of the bloodthirsty plague was also the key to reversing the outcome of this battle. Your little tricks are useless against me. Luo Shui's wound quickly healed. Her gaze became more and more serious. Do you think that you are the only one with a clone? Glacier clone! Her cold voice rang out. Clones that looked like ice sculptures stood up from the ground. Although these clones were not very strong, they could seriously interfere with Ling Xiao's attack. This was probably Luo Shui's goal. Too exciting! I don't know what Ling Xiao will do next. I really didn't expect that he would be able to injure Luo Shui first. I thought that he would be the first to be injured. That's right, these two people are very strong. However, Luo Shui's strength is clearly stronger than Ling Xiao's. Ling Xiao's greatest strength was his resourcefulness. In battle, he can always catch the enemy off guard. However, Luo Shui will definitely not let this matter rest. She will definitely think of a way to make Ling Xiao suffer. Before everyone had finished speaking, behind Luo Shui, a huge iceberg had already appeared. Her martial spirit was actually an iceberg. The iceberg martial spirit appeared. The air once again became cold. Many of the spectators below the stage had no choice but to circulate their true essence to keep warm. Otherwise, they would be unbearably cold. Great avalanche of heaven and earth! As Luo Shui's aura became stronger and stronger, the temperature in the air became colder and colder. A crazy mega avalanche was released, and the entire arena was wrapped in it. Because the height of the light wall was limited. Therefore, it was impossible for Ling Xiao to use the height to avoid this attack. Genius, remember this site's address in a second. Chapter 4285. Luo Shui's move was clearly aimed at him on purpose. Seeing this move, Lu Qi sighed helplessly below the stage. Previously, he had fought with Luo Shui and lost after 30 moves. He actually thought that he could win. Now, it seemed that Luo Shui did not use his true strength when dealing with him. He had hidden his strength. Not to mention anything else, it was impossible for him to block this avalanche. Facing such an attack, the only thing he could do was admit defeat. The audience also wanted to know how Ling Xiao would deal with Luo Shui's overwhelming attack. This woman is indeed terrifying. Looks like I have to use my true strength. Martial Spirit Barrier! Buzz! The martial spirit barrier enveloped the entire arena. For a moment, the martial artists did not know what was happening inside. And at that moment, Ling Xiao released the tyrannical martial spirit. That vast and majestic aura instantly suppressed Luo Shui. However, this was not the most terrifying thing. Take my move, tyrannical great palm! This was the heaven-covering great palm under the tyrannical martial spirit. Its power was basically equivalent to the combo power of the 23 dragons subduing swords. Even Luo Shui and Heavy Saber could not block it. This was the terrifying part of the tyrannical martial spirit. Once released, Ling Xiao's combat strength could already crush an intermediate stage Dan realm martial artist. Luo Shui was no longer his match. The terrifying heaven-covering great palm descended from the sky, as if black feathers were pressing down. It was terrifying. Bang! A terrifying loud sound was heard. That huge avalanche was actually smashed into pieces and stopped abruptly. Luo Shui was sent flying and vomited blood. Clearly, his injuries were not light. Ling Xiao withdrew the tyrannical martial spirit and martial spirit barrier. He stood there and looked at Luo Shui indifferently. Surrender. There is no deep hatred between us. There is no need to fight to the death. What happened just now? The moment the martial spirit barrier was withdrawn, the avalanche was also shattered. Everyone saw the situation in the arena again. However, this situation made them somewhat stunned. Ling Xiao stood there unscathed, but Luo Shui fell to the ground and vomited blood. What had happened? No one knew. That was why everyone was stunned. Didn't I say so? This Ling Xiao indeed still has a trump card. Otherwise, how could he possibly heavily injure Luo Shui? That's right. How did he repel the avalanche just now? Luo Shui crawled up from the ground. At this moment, she could already feel the effects of the bloodthirsty plague. Her combat strength was greatly weakened. Moreover, this weakening was continuous. Was that your martial soul? Luo Shui's face was extremely pale. She looked at Ling Xiao unwillingly and asked. That's right, Ling Xiao said indifferently. So you didn't lose unjustly. Your man didn't lose unjustly either. Thank you for showing mercy. Otherwise, both my brother and I would have died. Luo Shui laughed bitterly. Fortunately, he and Qin Dao did not put Ling Xiao in their eyes before. Only now did he realize how ignorant he was. This Ling Xiao was too scary. I won't kill people if there's no enmity between us. However, the same cannot be said for the people of the Yu family. Ling Xiao smiled faintly. After the referee announced his victory, he jumped off the stage. The competition continued, but many people had mixed feelings about it. Father, did you feel it just now? That frightening aura. Yu Kilian frowned. I felt it. Even though it was separated by the martial soul boundary, I could still feel it. This Ling Xiao really has a secret. Furthermore, it's a secret that we don't know. However, even so, he still can't be your match. You don't have to worry about this. Yu Xiangtian did not know what kind of terrifying energy Ling Xiao had released just now. However, he was certain that even with that energy, Ling Xiao still could not be Yu Qilian's match. Furthermore, the difference was huge. His feeling was real. Even if Ling Xiao relied on his tyrannical martial soul, he could only defeat a mid-stage extreme core stage cultivator. Any higher and he would not be able to do it. However, Yu Xiangtian had not guessed one thing. Ling Xiao had learned a new way to use the Sky Demon Dutchman's flower from a Yuan Venerate. With that, let alone Yu Qilian, even Yu Xiangtian and Yu Patian, the two demon kings, would not be able to defeat him. Ling Xiao would also have the strength to fight. I admit defeat. In the last round of the second stage of the sixth group, Ling Xiao's opponent chose to admit defeat. Nonsense, even Luo Shui and Qin Dao had been defeated by Ling Xiao. Most of the people in this group could only avoid this lunatic. Otherwise, they would definitely lose miserably. As the last match of the sixth group ended, the other groups also ended their matches one after another. The second stage of the elimination round could be said to have ended successfully. What made Ling Xiao happy was that Qi Niming had advanced steadily. Black Pearl and Qi Yaoguan had also advanced by luck. Although he stumbled, he still managed to enter the final 72 people. They could also gain some benefits. As for the woman in green, she had no choice but to be eliminated because her strength was too weak. Yu Luan and Yu Feng of the Yu family had also been eliminated. Very good. All 72 people who have advanced enter the large arena. You will receive the baptism of the 72 demon gods. Everyone will be blessed by the divine power of the Sky Demon Ghost Realm. If you are lucky, your strength may even break through. If you are unlucky, your combat strength will also increase. In short, this is the glory of the 72 of you. Hearing this, the 72 people who had advanced jumped into the large arena at the same time. This was also the arena where the finals would be held. Not only was it bigger, but its defensive power was also stronger, and it was harder to destroy. Listen up. In a while, demonic chi will enter your body and form a demonic shadow. Don't resist it, or you will easily go berserk. Receiving the baptism of the demonic chi will only benefit you. Don't worry. As soon as he finished speaking, Ling Xiao felt a black chi enter his body. A demonic shadow appeared behind him. This demonic shadow was about 3 feet long. It looked very small. Very cute. It made people feel a kind of funny feeling. But Ling Xiao could feel that this power did bring him great benefits. Not only did it replenish the potential he had consumed, it was also constantly tempering his physical body. In addition to the previous battle, he felt that his physical body was about to break through again. He turned his head to look and found that everyone's demonic shadows were basically 3 feet long. But as the demonic chi was constantly being absorbed, the demonic shadows were also constantly growing bigger and taller. It was just that the demonic chi in the arena seemed to be fixed. If some people absorbed more, others would naturally absorb less. I see. This is the so-called ranking. Whoever's demonic shadow is stronger and bigger will be ranked higher. Ling Xiao finally understood. Since that was the case, then he would not be polite. Buzz. All the cells in his body began to operate. The demonic chi was like a black hole, crazily pouring into his body. Originally, the demonic chi was a great supplement for him. In addition, his Sky Tyrant martial soul could contain all things, so there was no need to consider fusion. He could just absorb it. Please remember the domain name of the book. Read the mobile version of the book. Chapter 4286. In addition to Ling Xiao, who was like a fish in water, Yu Zhangzong, who had transformed into the human devil king, was also very happy. This guy simply didn't reject any demonic chi. He was frantically absorbing it. Ha ha ha! rumor has it that the demonic chi can reach 100 feet. Today, this father will break this record. The human devil king laughed wildly as he wantonly plundered the demonic chi of the other cultivators. This caused the cultivators around him to suffer unspeakably. Not only did the demonic chi not condense, but it also continued to shrink. Some people's demonic chi even directly exploded. Zhangzong's situation isn't right. Yu Xiangtian's brows furrowed. He was too clear about what kind of person Yu Zhangzong was. But from the beginning of the elimination round until now, Yu Zhangzong had not lost a single match. Instead, he had killed several powerful opponents. So much so that no one dared to fight with him. Even a fool could see that there was something wrong with him. Yes, the demonic chi in his body is very terrifying. I'm afraid it's even stronger than eccentric and Xiaojiao. Look, his demonic chi is already 10 feet long, and it's still growing. In the heavenly devil ghost territory, the final devil shadow transformed into a devil venerable, and the devil venerable incarnation was only 300 meters long. No one has ever surpassed it. I wonder what will happen to him. Yu Dingtian frowned. Then what should we do? Should we stop him? Yu Wentian asked. It's impossible to stop him now. This is the demon sovereign city, if the puppets don't stop him. If we do, we will be the ones provoking him. Forget it, even if he isn't the real Zhangzong, there's nothing to be afraid of. I have a way. Yu Xiangtian sneered. He was too familiar with the possession technique. In order to make the demon sovereign eternal, his family had studied this possession technique for many years. They had long been proficient in it. It was because they were proficient in it that they had a countermeasure. Look, Eccentric and Xiao Jiao are making their move! At this moment, everyone looked at the stage. Yu Qiren and Ling Jiaojiao made their move at the same time, madly absorbing the demonic chi. The demonic chi became bigger and bigger. Humph, no matter who you are, I won't admit defeat. I am the strongest genius of the Yu family. Even if someone can make the demonic chi transformation, it must be me. Yu Qiren looked at Yu Zhangzong and said coldly, For my brother, for myself, I absolutely can't lose. The only one who can achieve specter incarnation is me. Ling Jiaojiao gritted her teeth. She hoped that everything would go smoothly according to the plan, and not fight a tough battle in the end. At this moment, the situation in the arena was somewhat special. Yu Zhangzong's devil's shadow grew crazily. It had already grown to 200 feet. Yu Qiren and Ling Jiaojiao's shadows had also grown to about 10 feet tall, but they were still quite a distance away from Yu Zhangzong. Boom! Ling Zhao's aura suddenly became stronger. Under the continuous tempering and strengthening of the demon chi, the strength of his body increased again, and reached the mid-ninth order emperor realm. With the strengthening of his physical body, his combat prowess had a qualitative improvement as well. However, his cultivation base remained the same. He was still at the perfect Earth core realm. However, he had already accumulated 20% of the energy in his cultivation C. Time's up! The absorption of devil chi lasted for a full hour. This was both absorption and rest. What a pity! It's only 900 feet long. It hasn't reached the level of specter incarnation yet. The moment Yu Zhangzong heard the voice, he discovered that the demonic chi above the arena had disappeared instantly. The devil's shadow behind him was also maintained at a height of 90 feet. He didn't achieve his goal. Damn it, I still can't catch up. Yu Qiren gritted his teeth. The gap was too big. His devil's shadow had only grown to 500 feet. I failed! Ling Jiajia sighed. Her devil's shadow had grown to 600 feet, which was stronger than Yu Qiren's. However, it was still very far away from Yu Zhangzong. On the heaven list, Xingyun, Fire Spirit, Dao Shuilan, Jian Wuqing, Yu Rua, and Xi Niming's shadows had all grown to 500 feet. Xingyun's shadow was the closest to Yu Qiren's. The others were slightly weaker, but the difference wasn't big. It could be seen that the devil's shadow plunder didn't only depend on strength. Sometimes, it also depended on other things. Look over there, specter incarnation. Those on the heaven list naturally paid attention to their opponents on the heaven list. No one looked at the others. At this moment, someone suddenly shouted. Everyone looked in the direction his finger was pointing. 100-foot-tall demon venerable stood in the void. Everyone looked down at the demon venerable. He wondered which dark horse was capable of doing this. Ling Xiao! It's actually Ling Xiao, ranked 10th on the Earth list. What 10th? He even defeated Luo Shui, who was ranked 6th. He should at least be ranked 6th on the Earth list. Even so, this is too exaggerated. 100-foot-tall devil shadow, specter incarnation, this has already reached the highest record. No, that's not specter incarnation. That's specter incarnation. It's definitely more than 100 feet tall. I'm afraid it's at least 200 feet tall. Because it was a visual estimate, many people didn't notice it at first. However, with this reminder, everyone realized it. Ling Zhao's devil shadow had already set a new record. Moreover, it wasn't a demon venerable incarnation behind him, but a demon emperor incarnation. How is this possible? Even the current demon emperor can't do this. What the hell? What kind of monster is this kid? He couldn't have been possessed, right? Probably not. This devil shadow plunder doesn't depend on strength, but talent. Even if he was possessed by a demon emperor, it's impossible to reach this point. It can only mean that his talent is much stronger than others. Moreover, there's a time limit. If there's no time limit, I'm afraid he'll devour all the devil chi on the stage. Such terrifying talent, why isn't he a cultivator of our Yu family? Yu Xiangtian's heart was trembling. Although he already knew about Ling Zhao's extraordinary talent, the scene before him still shocked him greatly. Ha ha ha, this kid is too awesome. Fortunately, he was taken in by our Golden Sky region. Otherwise, I would be jealous to death. The Flame Emperor, on the other hand, was laughing heartily. Every time he saw Ling Xiao, he would feel incomparably fortunate. Humph, so what if you're a specter incarnation? This demon king will kill you later. No matter how talented you are, it's useless. Having Ling Xiao steal the limelight, the human demon king didn't feel good in his heart. However, he couldn't do anything now. However, there were plenty of opportunities. They would meet in the finals sooner or later. Unless Ling Xiao was eliminated early. Ling Xiao must die. Yu Qiren's eyes flashed with a cold light. Although he knew that killing Ling Xiao might have a great impact on the Yu family. Since Ling Xiao wanted to participate in the Demon Venerable Successor Selection Battle, there was nothing to say if he died. Even the Golden Sky region wouldn't dare to openly fight with the heavenly demon ghost beasts. Little brother, you're always the most dazzling one. If it weren't for you this time, I'm afraid I would have become a husk. For you, I can do anything. Ling Jiaojia just glanced at Ling Xiao, then withdrew her gaze and made up her mind. Chapter 4287. The demonic chi that you just plundered was only the basic demonic chi. In the following finals, as long as you win once, you can get a part of the other party's demonic chi. So accumulation. The demonic chi can still become stronger. So don't be discouraged. At this moment, the puppet host's voice sounded. These words made many people look at Ling Xiao with a different gaze. Before, it was jealousy. And now it was greed. Ling Xiao was like a huge treasure trove of demonic chi. As long as you defeat him, you can get a large amount of demonic chi. I'm afraid everyone will go all out. At this moment, the atmosphere suddenly became tense. It was not only directed at Ling Xiao. It was directed at everyone. In the elimination round, it didn't matter even if you lost 1 or 2 rounds. But the ranking round was different. If you lose, your ranking will drop, and your demonic chi will be sucked away by others. Only the final form of devil chi could be converted into strength. So, no one was willing to be robbed. It was rumored that demonic chi could not only improve cultivation, but also improve a person's cultivation aptitude. Especially the aptitude of a demonic cultivator. This was of course rare and precious for those martial artists who were not very talented but had relatively strong strength. What they got was not only demonic chi, but also aptitude. In the solemn atmosphere, the referee began to announce the rules of the ranking round. All the matches were carried out in the big arena. The ranking round had a total of 72 rounds. Everyone had to go through 71 matches. One match in each round. Everyone would encounter one of the other 70 people. It was only a matter of time. The final ranking naturally depended on the number of wins. Whoever had the most wins would be the final champion. And the one with the most wins would naturally be the strongest demonic shadow. Although the basic demonic shadow would give you a certain advantage. But this was only temporary. Like Ling Xiao, losing a match would cost him nearly half of his demonic chi. In addition, the ranking round would remove the restrictions on weapons, talismans, and puppets. It could allow martial artists to maximize their advantages. After all, some martial artists were best at weapons. If you don't let them use their own weapons, it would be disadvantageous to them. And some martial artists were proficient in talismans and puppets. If you don't let them use them, how could he win? It was right not to use it in the knockout round. If you couldn't even pass the knockout round with your strength, you wouldn't be able to do so. If he still had to rely on talismans and puppets, then he might as well go somewhere else. The ranking competition is indeed more exciting. I didn't get to see the conversation between the strong. Now I'm going to see it. This feeling is really great. Do you think Killian will fight Ling Jiaojiao? There should be, but I think it will only appear towards the end. Why? You didn't read the rules carefully, did you? In order to prevent strong opponents from meeting too early, the rules set up the existence of seeded players. I'm guessing they're the 10 people on the heaven leaderboard. There really is such a rule. That's reasonable. However, the final results surprised these people. Although there were indeed 10 seeded contestants, they were not purely on the heaven leaderboard. Everyone else on the heaven leaderboard was on the list. Only Yu Ruo was missing and Ling Xiao was added. Ling Xiao? What does he have? Just because he is at the perfect Earth Core realm? Naturally, Yu Ruo was not convinced. He was ranked last on the heaven leaderboard. He was not convinced by anyone else, but Ling Xiao. Just because he can transform into a demon emperor, he is qualified. The puppet judge only said one sentence, and Yu Ruo's temper disappeared. Even if I'm not a seeded player, I'll let you know how powerful I am. Ling Xiao, you're the one who humiliated me and humiliated our Yu family. You better not let me meet you. Otherwise, I'll make you suffer. Yu Ruo poured all his dissatisfaction onto Ling Xiao. He thought that Ling Xiao had humiliated him. All right, the seeded contestants have been chosen. The ranking competition begins. Following the judge's order, 2 cultivators of the ultimate core realm jumped onto the stage. It was a bit funny. Among the 72 people, Ling Xiao was the only one below the ultimate realm of Dan. And he was a seeded contestant. It could be said that he was the weakest seeded contestant in history. But the audience didn't protest. It was because Ling Xiao's Demon Emperor transformation was too shocking. It didn't seem to be a problem to give him the qualification of a seeded contestant. The first match soon began. Both of them were martial artists at the early stage of the extreme realm of Dan. They were evenly matched. After 100 rounds of battle, one of them won with his experience. After winning, the Demon Emperor transformation behind the winner actually opened his mouth and sucked in a lot of the Demon Emperor transformation behind the loser. Ling Xiao observed that the Demon Emperor transformation would shrink by half with each loss. The Demon Emperor transformation, which was originally 3 feet long, suddenly became 1.5 feet long. And the other person's Demon Emperor transformation was obviously 1 size bigger. It was more than 4 feet long. Interesting. Although Ling Xiao had already guessed this before, guesses were just guesses. It was still very interesting to see this with his own eyes. After that, such scenes continued to happen. Then, it was Black Pearl's turn. With Black Fire's advantage, Black Pearl won with difficulty. The Demon Emperor transformation behind him also grew to about 4 feet long. And during these battles, Ling Xiao discovered something interesting. When the disparity in strength was too great, even if one won, the demonic chi gained would be very little. And if one defeated an opponent of a higher level, they would gain a lot of demonic chi. Not only could it absorb the opponent's demonic chi, but it also seemed to be able to replenish it from the arena. This point was confirmed in the following battle. Yukurin's opponent chose to admit defeat. Although he had absorbed his opponent's demonic chi, the difference in strength was too great. So Yukurin's Demon Emperor transformation remained at 500 feet. 22nd match, Ling Xiao vs. Lu Yen. Lu Yen, ranked 5th on the Earth leaderboard, was a cultivator of the Emerald sect. He was in the ultimate core realm. Whether in terms of cultivation or fame, he was stronger than Ling Xiao. But now, the Demon Emperor transformation behind him was only 6 feet long. So when he heard that his opponent was Ling Xiao, he was so happy that he almost jumped up. His luck was quite good to meet Ling Xiao. He could eat to his heart's content. An ultimate core realm cultivator is too strong. I can't win even if I rely on the Sky Tyrant martial soul. But I still have the giant demons. Ling Xiao's 10 giant demons had been constantly improving as he defeated the Yu family's cultivators. In addition to the demonic pills he had accumulated previously, the strongest giant devil was already at the peak of the extreme realm of core. The other 9 giant demons had also been eliminated. Only 4 of them were left, but their strength had all advanced to the ultimate core realm. Disciple, absorb more demonic chi. This demonic chi can directly increase the strength of the giant demons. Who knows, you might soon have a core fragmentation realm giant demon, Yuan Venerate said excitedly. Chapter 4288. Understood. Ling Xiao took a deep breath. Actually, he just needed to maintain his demonic shadow at about 200 feet. This would definitely fulfill the expectations of a Yuan Venerate. However, this wasn't going to be easy. His opponents weren't that weak. Every opponent he encountered next was very strong. Fortunately, he could use the giant demon to fight, which would make things easier for him. Standing in the arena, Lu Yan looked coldly at Ling Xiao. Since you have a good relationship with my junior sister, surrender. Surrender, you're no match for me. He. I think you should surrender. Ling Xiao looked at Lu Yan. In terms of pure strength, he was indeed inferior to Lu Yan. However, martialists looked at overall combat strength. He had the giant demon as his trump card, so an extreme core realm martialist wasn't a threat to him at all. Lu Yan froze for a moment before smiling. Forget it. If you don't want to surrender, then let's fight. However, don't blame me if I hurt you later. Go ahead, Ling Xiao said. All right. Lu Yan suddenly raised the staff in his hand and a ball of jade-green flames shot through the air. It actually transformed into a green fire wolf in midair. Its speed and power were rather domineering. Even a martialist of the same cultivation base would fall in the face of this attack. Falling Plum Clear Shadow Step. Ling Xiao used the Falling Plum Clear Shadow Step in an attempt to avoid it. I knew you would do this. Fire Wolf Pack. Lu Yan had watched Ling Xiao's battles more than once. He had a good understanding of Ling Xiao's strength. He knew that Ling Xiao's movement technique was very strong, so he had been prepared for this. The giant jade-green fire wolf suddenly dispersed and transformed into dozens of small wolves. Ling Xiao couldn't dodge in time and was hit directly. His entire body was covered in wounds from head to toe. Fortunately, he had used the special skill of the Divine Diamond Ape at the crucial moment, fire and water immunity. Otherwise, he would have been killed in one blow. Sigh. The difference is really too big. Ling Xiao sighed. He didn't use the power of the giant demon in the beginning because he wanted to see how far he could go against a warrior in the late stage of the extreme realm of Dan. Now it was clear. Without using the Tyrant martial spirit, even the Falling Plum Clear Shadow Steps could not help him. As long as they were hit, they were basically done for. I've said it before. The difference in cultivation is too great. You should just admit defeat. Lu Yan's attitude wasn't bad. It was probably because of the woman in green. Yeah, the gap is too big. It's time for this battle to end. Ling Xiao smiled. Suddenly, a black vortex appeared beside him. A figure charged out from the vortex. In just an instant, Lu Yen was pinned to the ground. Lu Yen wanted to move, but he couldn't. When people saw it clearly, they realized that it was a giant demon. Heavens, it's a giant demon! A giant demon that's even more terrifying than Green Flame! Isn't that against the rules? It shouldn't be against the rules, right? Otherwise, those who use puppets to fight would be breaking the rules. Yeah, battle pets are allowed to exist. Stop discussing. If it's really against the rules, the referee will say something. Obviously, they didn't say anything. Therefore, Ling Xiao won this battle. I just feel that Ling Xiao's victory is a bit dishonorable. It's not like he used his own strength. You're joking. What do you mean by using his own strength? If you have the ability, don't use martial skills or weapons. Use your body to fight. I want to see who can be Ling Xiao's opponent. Hee, that's true. Giant demon, throw him off the stage. Don't hurt him. Ling Xiao gave the order. The giant demon casually threw Lu Yen off the stage. Ling Xiao wins! Damn it, I didn't expect this kid to have raised a giant demon to this extent. Completion of the extreme stage of Dan? In other words, unless he meets a course-shattering realm martial artist, no one can be his opponent. But this is also good. This demon king will kill you to vent my hatred. The human demon king clenched his teeth. He was looking forward to the battle with Ling Xiao. After Ling Xiao's battle ended, the human demon king came on stage. His opponent was none other than Lu Qi. Facing the human demon king Yu Zhongzong, Lu Qi's choice was relatively unyielding. He didn't admit defeat. But he lost miserably. He had almost lost his life. In the end, only his inner core escaped. The human demon king was too strong. Just a glance was enough to make Lu Qi lose his will to fight. It's a pity for this Lu Qi. He was directly eliminated. Ling Xiao shook his head. But this kind of situation would happen often. Especially when encountering a monster like the human demon king, who had the deepest hatred for humans. He definitely wouldn't show mercy. But Lu Qi's demonic shadow was small, so it was meaningless for the human demon king to defeat him. The demonic shadow behind him was still 900 meters tall. The competition was so exciting. However, with Lu Qi's example, he had learned his lesson. The martial artists who encountered the seeded contestants all chose to admit defeat. Since they couldn't win, there was no need to waste energy. If things went wrong, they might even lose their lives. That wouldn't be worth it. 26th match, Black Pearl against Heavy Blade. Heavy Blade was originally ranked 7th on the Earth leaderboard. But after being defeated by Ling Xiao, he was a bit lonely. But still, no one dared to look down on his strength. In this battle, Black Pearl fought steadily, and fought with Heavy Blade for 100 rounds. Unexpectedly, they were evenly matched. In the end, Black Pearl won with a talisman from the Black Fire sect. She was basking in the glory of this sect. Although the Black Fire sect was destroyed by the Yu family, most of the treasures still fell into Black Pearl's hands. Heavy Blade wasn't weak, he just lost to his family background. After devouring half of Heavy Blade's demonic energy, Black Pearl's demonic shadow grew to 6 feet long. Of course, compared to the monsters on the Heaven leaderboard, it was still far from enough. But Black Pearl's mentality was better. She came this time to prove to the world that the Black Fire sect wasn't destroyed. The Yu family couldn't rest easy. As for how far they could go, it would depend on luck. Humph, Heavy Blade, this trash. If I meet this woman, I'll definitely kill her. The one who spoke was the second on the Earth leaderboard, Yu Luo, who was at the peak of the extreme core realm. As a member of the Yu family, he naturally couldn't bear to see the Black Fire sect's cultivators behave so atrociously. If you kill her, Ling Xiao will definitely kill you. Qi Niming's voice sounded, cold with a bit of killing intent. Ling Xiao? Humph, he's only relying on that ultimate stage of core realm ogre puppet. As long as I attack his body, he won't be able to do anything. Yu Luo said disdainfully. Is that so? Then I really want to see it. Qi Niming smiled. He knew best what was terrifying about Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao came to the Finger Devil Kingdom and immediately obtained the demonic Sirius. It was all for the sake of saving his sister. Many people seem to have overlooked this point. The demonic Sirius was the true killing weapon. The first round ended quickly. The second round began quickly. This continued until the sixth round. Ling Xiao's demonic shadow still didn't change much. If one looked closely, it seemed to have grown a bit. Please remember the domain name of this book. Come and read the mobile version. Bolts of black lightning were leaping about. It was the black lightning heart-gouging claw that this fellow was most proficient in. Break! Facing Yu Ruo's attack, Qi Niming had no intention of dodging. He thrust out the sword in his hand, and the roaring sword light actually sent the tiger claw flying. Yu Ruo was so scared that she hurriedly retreated. 9 Heavens Imperial Wind Technique! Ling Xiao had once used this technique against Tu Hu. He didn't expect to see it on Yu Ruo. Yu Ruo's cultivation was much higher than Tu Hu's, and the speed of using the 9 Heavens Imperial Wind Technique was also extremely fast. He was more threatening than Tu Hu. Like a ghostly wind. As soon as he used it, his figure had already appeared in front of Qi Niming. The terrifying tiger claw struck down again and again. Qi Niming calmly faced the enemy. The long sword in his hand constantly waved. He continuously blocked Yu Ruo's attacks, and it seemed that he was at a disadvantage. However, Ling Xiao understood that Qi Niming was looking for an opportunity. He was looking for an opportunity to decide the winner with one blow. It's time to end it! Ling Xiao shook his head. The first burst of energy, the second decline, and the third exhaustion. Yu Ruo's continuous attacks didn't achieve the desired effect, and his aura was also chaotic. Just at the moment when he stopped attacking, Qi Niming suddenly counterattacked. A sword pierced through Yu Ruo's throat. Yu Ruo was startled, and his figure retreated quickly, landing below the arena. He knew how much hatred there was between the Qi family and the Yu family. If he didn't escape, Qi Niming would really kill him. This wasn't a joke. Qi Niming, he's not even 50 years old. If the Qi family was still here, his future achievements would probably be even higher. Yes, a rare genius. Although his cultivation isn't as good as Yu Ruo's, he can calmly face the enemy and finally defeat the opponent with one sword. He didn't let hatred get to his head. While everyone was talking, Qi Niming directly swallowed half of Yu Ruo's demonic shadow. Because it was a cross-level challenge, Qi Niming gained a lot. The demonic shadow that had already reached 100 feet had now increased to about 200 feet. Because many martial artists chose to surrender in the battle. So the battle progressed very quickly. When it was the 20th round, it was only afternoon. Ling Xiao fought 19 times and won 19 times. If he added the elimination round, it was equivalent to 39 consecutive wins. However, because his demonic shadow was strong enough, there was still no change. Qi Niming maintained a winning streak like him. Black Pearl fought 19 times and won 10 times. This was actually quite good. Qi Yaoguang also caught up. He won 11 out of 19 battles. The main reason was that he was lucky. The opponents he met weren't too strong. But this kind of luck couldn't last long. If the martial artists he met at the beginning were weak, then the opponents he met later would definitely be very strong. The following matches were a bit uneventful. 20 rounds, 21 rounds, all the way until the 40th round. Although there were exciting battles, Ling Xiao didn't pay much attention to them. In the 41st round, Black Pearl encountered trouble. Her opponent was Yu Luo. Logically speaking, it was best to choose to surrender at this time. But the Black Fire sect was destroyed, and so many of Black Pearl's family members were killed by the Yu family. She couldn't surrender in front of the Yu family's martial artists. The result was obvious. Yu Luo was an expert at the peak of the Dan realm. Black Pearl had just broken through to the middle stage of the Dan realm. In the 30th round, Black Pearl was already very miserable. She was covered in injuries and even her consciousness was blurry. Yuluo clearly wanted to kill her. He didn't give her a chance to get off the stage. In the end, Ling Xiao interfered with the match. He used the demonic eye to force Black Pearl off the stage. Luckily, a Divine Core warrior had a strong life force. Although Black Pearl was badly injured, with Ling Xiao, a powerful alchemist, helping her, it wasn't a big deal. With a healing pill and the immemorial Nature Dragon's treatment, Black Pearl quickly woke up. I'm useless. My enemy is right in front of me, but I can't kill him. It's that Yuluo, he's the one who cruelly killed my little brother, my 10-year-old little brother. Black Pearl cried sadly. She had tried her best, but she couldn't get her revenge. Reality was cruel. Genius 1 second. Remember this site address. Mobile version reading website. Chapter 4290. Don't force yourself. I'll take revenge for you. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed coldly as he glanced at Yuluo. He didn't even need to use the power of the demonic epiphyllum. He could defeat Yuluo easily. He dared to hurt Black Pearl. He must be tired of living. Yuluo saw Ling Xiao's gaze and showed him disdain. He raised his middle finger and said, If you go up, the result will be the same. It's a mistake that I didn't kill that woman this time. But when it's your turn, I won't show mercy. Ling Xiao suddenly laughed. The people of the Yu family hadn't learned their lesson yet. Since that was the case, he would teach them a lesson. You'll be unlucky. Qi Niming looked at Yuluo and said indifferently. That kid will be the unlucky one. Yuluo didn't care. The 41st round ended and the 42nd round began. Ling Xiao's opponent was Lu Qi. You don't have to surrender. I won't use the demonic epiphyllum to fight with you. Ling Xiao saw that Lu Qi wanted to surrender and stopped him. Use your strongest attack, Yizichen said. Ling Xiao didn't forget his goal of improving his basic strength. Although the demonic epiphyllum and the demonic epiphyllum were very powerful. But that wasn't a long-term plan. If he wanted to be strong enough to make others fear him, then the best way was to make himself stronger. Lu Qi's strength was good and would be helpful to his strength improvement. Okay. Then take this. Without hesitation, Lu Qi launched an attack. After changing his body into a puppet body, Lu Qi's fighting style also changed. His attacks contained the power of lightning. Rushing Thunder Fist! It was combined with the power of the puppet body. This punch was definitely stronger than Lu Qi's in the elimination round. The power is not bad, but the puppet body made him lose some flexibility. Ling Xiao opened his Tai Chi eye and learned some of Lu Qi's strengths. Then, he was ready to end this battle. Heaven Covering Palm! A single palm strike landed on the vital part of the puppet's body. He didn't fight Lu Qi head-on. Instead, he directly dodged Lu Qi's attack. He blasted Lu Qi out of the arena. One move, insta-kill. Although Ling Xiao's cultivation didn't break through, his physical body did. Therefore, whether it was speed or agility, he was much stronger than before. He was confident that he could kill a powerhouse of the initial stage of the undefeatable realm. I lost! Lu Qi fell to the ground and smiled bitterly. He was thoroughly convinced of his defeat in this battle. He originally thought that Ling Xiao was just relying on the troll to show off. But now, he understood that even without the troll, Ling Xiao was definitely not easy to deal with. The match did not stop. He didn't even rest. It went from day to night, and it was still going on. When a Divine Core warrior reached the Divine Core realm, it wouldn't be a problem for him to not rest for more than 10 days. Therefore, there was no such thing as rest in this selection battle. In the 59th round, Ling Xiao finally met Yuluo. Yuluo impatiently stepped onto the stage and challenged Ling Xiao. Brat, hurry up and die. Ling Xiao gently patted Black Pearl's shoulder and said, Watch how I kill him. He flew into the air and stepped onto the stage. The first thing Ling Xiao did was to summon the troll. He had no choice, he had to do this when facing a powerful opponent like Yuluo. Yuluo had reached the perfect stage of the core realm. With just his basic combat strength, there was no way he could win. Even if he used the martial soul of Tyrant, the result would be the same. I knew this was all you got. Yuluo laughed proudly. He casually crushed a talisman. Then, a terrifying giant puppet beast appeared in front of him. Its entire body was made of metal. It was extremely ferocious. You gave that platinum bull to Yuluo? Yu Xiangtian looked at Yu Qiren and asked. That's right, that thing was used by my son in the past. Since I don't need it anymore, I can give it to Yuluo, Yu Qiren said with a smile. He wanted Ling Xiao dead. As long as Ling Xiao didn't die, the Yu family would continue to lose face. It wasn't easy for him to wait for such an opportunity. How could he not use it? Ling Xiao is in trouble now. That's right, he was able to defeat a late-stage core realm cultivator by relying on that terrifying troll. Now that he's met Yuluo, who also has a puppet, I'm afraid he's going to lose. I think he's not just going to lose, he's going to die. Many of the audience didn't think Ling Xiao would win. But this was normal. Ling Xiao's cultivation was only at the perfect stage of the Earth Core realm. It was a miracle that he could last until now. It would be pointless if he kept going. He might as well just admit defeat like a bachelor. He could avoid death. The Black Pearl watched this scene nervously. She believed that Yuluo had just obtained this golden white bull puppet. He definitely didn't have it when he fought her. Ling Xiao gave her a reassuring look. Then, he looked at Yuluo and said, One sword! What do you mean? Yuluo was stunned for a moment, not understanding what Ling Xiao meant. In the end, they saw Ling Xiao abandon the troll and disappear from everyone's sight in an instant. Hell's Shadow Strike! A cold voice came from the darkness. Then, everyone saw Yuluo's corpse on the tip of the sword. The East Victory Heavenly Sword emitted a blood-red light. Blood dripped onto the ground. Roar! The golden white bull roared angrily and pounced at Ling Xiao, trying to save Yuluo. But Ling Xiao casually struck out with his palm. The golden white bull shattered. It was completely destroyed. Impossible! How could this be? Yu Qilian stood up in shock. Many of the Yu family members also stood up. They couldn't understand the situation at all. Of course, they didn't know that Ling Xiao had finally swallowed the fruit of the demonic epiphyllum and temporarily raised his cultivation to the perfect stage of the extreme stage. One had to know. When he was at the perfect stage of the Earth Core realm, he could easily kill a martial artist at the early stage of the extreme stage. When his cultivation reached the perfect stage of the extreme stage, then martial artists of the same cultivation level were not worth mentioning in front of him. Even without transforming, he could easily kill them. Perfect stage of the extreme stage! How could this be? Yu Xiangtian was also stunned. Even Forefather Scarlet Flame and Azure Lotus Sword Lady were dumbfounded. Fire King was also dumbfounded. No one had expected such a dramatic change. Could it be that he ate the demonic epiphyllum? That's not right, the power of the demonic epiphyllum is definitely more than that. And according to the rumors, after swallowing the demonic epiphyllum, there will be a phenomenon. There is no such thing. Yu Xiangtian thought of the demonic epiphyllum, but he quickly rejected it. Then what's going on? Could it be that he has been hiding his strength? Yu Qilian thought in a daze. Spare me, spare me! Yuluo was lifted into the air by the sword, and the pain was as if he was being cut into pieces. He began to beg for mercy in fear. I've said it before, you deserve to die! Boom! A terrifying sword chi erupted from the heavenly sword of Dongxing. In that instant, Yuluo's body was torn into pieces. Completely dead. In this way, the 72 people became 71 people. Genius 1 second. Remember this site address. Mobile version reading website. Chapter 4291. Yuluo was killed. A few people would probably win without a fight. But Ling Xiao didn't care about this. Since he had already used the power of the heavenly demon Dutchman's flower, then he wouldn't stop. This shock lasted until the 62nd round. As a seeded player, Ling Xiao. Next, he would face all martial artists of the Shattered Core realm. 10 experts on the heaven roll. And the competition entered the last 10 rounds. Next would be exciting. The experts on the heaven roll would also encounter and fight. Every battle would probably be incomparably exciting. 62nd round, first round, Ling Xiao against Yu Ruo. With the announcement of the referee, the audience immediately cheered. Would Ling Xiao, this dark horse, be able to continue? Whether his winning streak could continue or not, Yu Ruo was definitely the best alchemy stone. In this battle, Ling Xiao encountered the most powerful opponent. Yu Ruo's cultivation was at the second level of the Shattered Core realm. But his combat power was obviously not very good. Otherwise, he wouldn't have lost to Qi Niming. I want to avenge the dead martial artists of our Yu family. This was Yu Ruo's first sentence after going on stage. Up to you. Ling Xiao just glanced at Yu Ruo indifferently. He now had the power of the heavenly demon Dutchman's flower, and his cultivation had temporarily reached the perfection of the extreme core realm. Defeating a second level of the Shattered Core realm martial artist shouldn't be too difficult. Even if he faced a fifth level of the Shattered Core realm martial artist, he still had the power to fight. He didn't continue to devour the heavenly demon Dutchman's flower. His current strength was enough for the time being, and it was beneficial for the improvement of his basic strength. You're really arrogant. Even if you're a martial artist of the extreme core realm, you can't look down on my existence like this. Yu Ruo roared angrily and directly charged out. Ling Xiao didn't dodge. Instead, he similarly charged out. 23 dragon subduing swords, one sword after another stabbed out. Yu Ruo wanted to stop him, but he found that he couldn't. Each of Ling Xiao's sword was powerful and heavy, and actually made him have a terrifying feeling that it was impossible to block. 23 dragon subduing swords, dragon subduing without regrets. 23 golden dragons broke through the air and directly blasted Yu Ruo onto the stage. Yu Ruo was still very strong. When one's cultivation reached the core fragmentation realm, the power of the inner core would be transferred to the body. As a result, his physical body became even more terrifying. To create the conditions for entering the divine body realm, Yu Ruo was able to survive because of this. What a domineering sword technique! Ling Xiao is indeed Ling Xiao. He's at the consummate level of the ultimate core realm, and he's been suppressing those at the second tier of the Shattered Core realm. This is too awesome. Maybe he'll be the dark horse at the end of the race. The audience also became extremely excited. As a result, he didn't really watch the other matches in the 62nd round. After the 62nd round, it was time for the true seeded contestants to face off. From the 63rd round to the final round, this was absolutely exciting. I'm really starting to admire this puppet judge now. 10 seeded contestants, all of them won. Ling Xiao, who they thought was the most incomprehensible, actually gave them the biggest surprise. He actually defeated Yu Ruo, who's at the second tier of the Shattered Core realm. Yeah, don't underestimate them just because they're puppets. They're very powerful. Yu Ruo is so pitiful. It's fine if he lost to the other seeded contestants, but he actually lost to Ling Xiao. You can't say that. Who would have thought that Ling Xiao's cultivation is so strong, and he actually used the giant demon to fish in troubled waters? Isn't this guy pretending to be weak? Amidst the heated discussion, the 63rd round also began. The first round wasn't a battle between seeded contestants. However, the battle was still quite exciting. The second round wasn't a battle between seeded contestants, but a battle between Qi Yaoguang and Black Pearl. Both of them chose to forfeit. They weren't here to fight for anything, but to deal with the Yu family. Therefore, there was no need for them to fight among themselves. In the third round, the audience cheered. Because this time, it was finally a battle between seeded contestants. The contestants were Fire Spirit and Qi Niming. In the previous battles, Fire Spirit basically defeated his opponent with one move, or his opponent admitted defeat. There was no doubt about his strength, but he didn't have many opportunities to show it. Qi Niming, on the other hand, defeated Yu Ruo, who was stronger than him. He definitely had some strength. The battle between the two was definitely exciting to the audience. Even Ling Xiao wanted to know what special methods Fire Spirit had. What was Qi Niming's limit? Please. Qi Niming had no grudges with Fire Spirit, so his attitude was quite good. Please. Fire Spirit also cupped his hands and said, "But I'm afraid you won't be able to win this battle." Naturally, he had his own reasons for saying this. On the heaven list, Qi Niming was ranked 9th, and Fire Spirit was ranked 8th. It made sense for him to be so confident. However, Fire Spirit obviously didn't think this ranking was reasonable. In his eyes, his ranking should be higher. At least, he shouldn't be worse than Jian Wuqing and Dao Shuilan. Therefore, defeating Qi Niming was only the first step. Without fighting, no one knows the result. Qi Niming took out his weapon. This sword had been with him for many years. It was like a friend to him. Whenever he was in trouble, it would help him cut open the cage. Ling Xiao has the dragon subduing 23 swords, but I also have the bloodthirsty demon's sword. A total of 18 swords. You better not give me a chance or you'll lose. The reason why Qi Niming revealed all of his secrets was because he had a plan. People like Fire Spirit were more arrogant. The more you said your move was strong, the more he wanted to try it. Naturally, he wouldn't interrupt you. This was the only way Qi Niming could win. Actually, Qi Niming knew that he was only at the first level of the core-shattering realm. This level of cultivation was considered top-notch among those under the age of 50. Even Ghost Sword was at this level. However, Fire Spirit was more than 90 years old, so his cultivation was naturally much stronger. He estimated that he was around the 3rd level of the core-shattering realm. He could challenge Yuruo, who was at the 2nd level of the core-shattering realm, but facing Fire Spirit, who was at the 3rd level of the core-shattering realm, he couldn't do anything. Bloodthirsty Demon's Sword? I've heard that the more damage you take, the more terrifying the attack. This is a sword technique that risks your life. Good, let me see how strong your bloodthirsty demon's sword can be. Then, Fire Spirit attacked. He didn't use weapons. His fists were the best weapons. Flames wrapped around his fists as he kept attacking Qi Niming. Ping 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 ping. Although it was just a simple attack, he didn't use any martial skills. However, the power of each punch was no weaker than a peak 9th level Emperor martial skill. It was very terrifying. Only now did people realize how powerful the Fire Spirit was. Those who had lost to him before were scared witless. Please remember the domain name of this book. Come and read the mobile version. Chapter 4292. The warriors who lost to Fire Spirit all had ugly expressions on their faces. If Fire Spirit attacked them like this from the beginning, they would have been killed long ago. This attack was simply too frightening. Qi Niming retreated while using the bloodthirsty demon's sword to counterattack. Every time the bloodthirsty demon's sword was injured, every time it attacked, its power would increase. So he naturally couldn't just defend. But he could feel that Fire Spirit's fist was extremely terrifying. The fist wind was like a storm. Every time he blocked, he felt like he was hit by a huge meteorite. Compared to this guy's attack, Yuruo's attack was like a child's play. They weren't on the same level at all. His strength is definitely not just at the 3rd level of the core-shattering realm. Qi Niming had an idea and knew that he couldn't be Fire Spirit's opponent. But it was impossible for him to admit defeat. Even if the opponent was a mountain, and a mountain charging at him at high speed, he had to block it. And the stronger the opponent's attack, the more terrifying his bloodthirsty demon's sword was. At this time, the sword in his hand had completely turned blood red. The blood-red heavenly lake behind him was churning continuously. On one hand, it was blocking the impact for him, and on the other hand, it was accumulating power. Boom! When Fire Spirit's 16th fist came, Qi Niming spat out a mouthful of blood. He was injured. And the injury wasn't light. His sword technique couldn't completely block this terrifying fist intent. Fire Spirit's attack was no joke. And he didn't have any intention of showing mercy. If it wasn't for the bloodthirsty demon sword that could greatly increase his physical strength in a short time, Qi Niming would have been killed. But if this time passed, he would be in trouble. Once the bloodthirsty demon sword was completely released, he would completely lose his combat power and be slaughtered. That was why Fire Spirit said that this was a sword technique that risked his life. It wasn't a normal way of fighting at all. Although Qi Niming could feel that his vital essence was being severely compressed. His body was constantly crying out in pain. But he had to hold it in. Hold it in. If he wanted to reverse the situation, he had to risk his life like this. Boom! Another fist. Qi Niming felt that he instantly fell into an endless sea of fire. He was surrounded by magma. He desperately resisted the pressure, and his body was distorted. Bloodthirsty demon sword, release! Finally, Qi Niming stabbed out his 18th sword. The bloodthirsty demon sword was fully unleashed. In that instant, the fire spirit's fist wind was completely destroyed. A terrifying roaring sword will tore through the void. It directly hit fire spirit's protective Jinyuan. His protective Jinyuan shattered. The sword Qi continued to advance. Like a bloodthirsty demon, it directly pierced Fire Spirit's body. The boundless power forced Fire Spirit to retreat. One of his feet was already in the air, and his body was tilted to almost 180 degrees. He was about to fall. Miraculously, he stood up again. He bent over and looked at the sword wounds on his body. He wiped off the lava-like blood and smiled. The bloodthirsty demonic sword is indeed terrifying. Fortunately, you are not yet 50 years old. Then the one who will lose today will definitely be me. On the other side, Qi Niming's consciousness was already blurry. He fell heavily onto the arena. He smiled helplessly. The opponent was too strong. Even though he gave it his all, he was still defeated. This was the cruel truth. Fire Spirit, kill that brat! In the stands, Yukurin roared. Why should I listen to you? Fire Spirit looked at Yukurin with disdain, and then stepped forward to help Qi Niming up and down the arena. If you don't kill him, I will kill you later. Yukurin gritted his teeth and said. I will wait. Fire Spirit shouted. Others were afraid of the Yu family, but he was not. Thank you for showing mercy, Brother Fire. Just leave him to me. Ling Xiao caught Qi Niming and fed him a healing pill, as well as a Jinyuan recovery pill. And a drop of shattered pill divine water. At this stage, he didn't need the shattered pill divine water. Qi Niming was his friend. He wouldn't be stingy with it. What's more, if Ling Jiaojiao became the demon lord of the Fengdu Demon Kingdom in the future, she would need Qi Niming's help. After all, Ling Xiao wasn't a lone wolf. He was the heavenly emperor of the Heavenly Dynasty Empire. Roping in talents was also one of his missions. Qi Niming probably gained a lot from the battle with Fire Spirit. If he used the shattered pill divine water now, his chances of breaking through would be extremely high. He's really lucky to have a friend like you. Fire Spirit looked at Ling Xiao and smiled. I still can't see through you. I really hope to have a chance to fight with you. You will have that chance. Ling Xiao smiled and began to heal Qi Niming's injuries. He was helping Qi Niming, and also helping himself. After this battle, the next few matches were more casual and ordinary. Until the 9th battle. Finally, there was another battle of the pinnacle. Dao Shuilan against Jian Wuqing. In everyone's impression, Dao Shuilan and Jian Wuqing were very close on the heaven ranking. One used a saber, while the other used a sword. They were also very interesting opponents. Therefore, their battle also caused a burst of cheers. Ling Xiao also hoped to see who would emerge victorious in the battle between the two of them. After all, he could learn a lot of good things from their duels. Whoosh! The two landed on the arena at almost the same time. Boom! At the same time, they released terrifying saber and sword essences. It was as if two huge weapons clashed in the sky. Flowing water saber technique, murderous intent. Dao Shuilan made the first move because he felt Jian Wuqing's terrifying murderous intent. This made him very uncomfortable. Sabersmen were usually more straightforward and decisive. Compared to the elegance and cunning of a swordsman, it was not strange to make the first move. Clang! The saber-chi approached Jian Wuqing, but when it was 5 or 6 meters away, it was suddenly blocked. Sword drawing technique. This was the most basic sword technique, but Jian Wuqing used it to the extreme. Lone boat fisherman, one sword moves the river. The moment he blocked Dao Shuilan's attack, Jian Wuqing counterattacked. His body took a step forward. A lonely and sharp sword chi suddenly burst out and attacked Dao Shuilan, who was dozens of meters away. Clang! This time, it was Dao Shuilan who blocked Jian Wuqing's attack. Dao Shuilan did not back down and also took a step forward. The saber in his hand released a saber chi that was as soft as flowing water, but terrifyingly sharp. This contradictory combination was played by him to the point of perfection. Clang! Unfortunately, before Dao Shuilan's saber chi could move forward, it was blocked by Jian Wuqing's other hand. Jian Wuqing also used 2 swords. It was not worth it. Unlike Ling Xiao, he held a long sword in his right hand and a short sword in his left. His right hand attacked, and his left hand assisted. The left hand's attack or defense always served the right hand. Chapter 4293. Jian Wuqing's dual swords were different from Ling Xiao's 2 hands, which were equivalent to 2 martial artists. It was hard to say who was better. It could only be said that Ling Xiao's method was more difficult. Water Dragon Strike! Dao Shuilan was not weaker than Jian Wuqing. Although he was holding the blade with both hands, he seemed to be at a disadvantage. But his blade technique was more powerful. Every attack was very overbearing. A water dragon roared out, directly penetrating Jian Wuqing's protective net, and attacked Jian Wuqing's body. Jian Wuqing frowned slightly. He did not dare to be careless. The long sword in his right hand shook, and a fire phoenix flew out. The dragon and phoenix collided again. A terrifying roar was heard. The entire arena was shaking. The strength of these 2 people was indeed as everyone had expected. They were evenly matched. In the blink of an eye, several moves had passed. Either of them had the upper hand. In this way, the 2 went back and forth. The arena was full of blade light and sword shadows. They fought for 200 rounds. Gradually, some clues were revealed. Dao Shuilan is probably going to lose. After all, he is still a little weaker than Jian Wuqing. Ling Xiao shook his head. Dao Shuilan was very strong. But Jian Wuqing was stronger. And Dao Shuilan's moves consumed too much vital essence. If he could not win after a long time, he would definitely be at a disadvantage. If he lost, he would lose because of this. Let's decide it in one move. Dao Shuilan and Jian Wuqing both stopped. Because either of them could afford to continue. Dao Shuilan also understood that if this continued, he would be the one to lose sooner or later. Instead of wasting their physical strength, it was better to decide it in one move. Okay. Jian Wuqing nodded. The 2 released their martial souls at the same time, and prepared a powerful move at the same time. Almost at the same time, they rose into the air. The blade and sword collided in midair, and then staggered. The arena suddenly quieted down. What happened? Someone asked. Dao Shuilan lost. Ling Xiao saw very clearly that he had already finished healing Qi Niming. The one in charge of taking care of Qi Niming was Ancestor Scarlet Flame. He saw it very clearly. Dao Shuilan lost because he was not cunning enough. His final strike was even more powerful, but he was overly concerned about power. Even though Jian Wuqing's moves were not as powerful as his, they were not far off. Furthermore, Jian Wuqing knew how to utilize his techniques. It was reasonable for him to win. I lost! Dao Shuilan shook her head. He walked down the ring. Although many people didn't understand how he lost, it was enough for the 2 of them to understand. The 2 of them didn't go all out because they were thinking about the upcoming battle. Thanks for letting me win! Jian Wuqing smiled bitterly. Even though he had won, this was a tough battle to win. After the battle between the 2 ended, the cheers of the audience did not subside for a long time. Although many people did not understand why Jian Wuqing had won in the end. But the competition was exciting enough. Just this point alone was enough. There was no need to think so much. Moreover, there were still several seated contestants who were going to fight. Perhaps there would be something even more exciting. In this round, only Qi Niming, Fire Spirit, Dao Shuilan, and Jian Wuqing had participated. There were only 4 of them. The remaining ones were Yu Zhangzong, Yu Qiren, Ling Jiaojiao, Xing Yun, Ling Xiao, and Yu Nu. On the Heaven leaderboard, the Yu family had 5 people. Yu Ruo had been removed from the Heaven leaderboard, not even a seated contestant. But the Yu family still had 4. Yu Zhangzong was the human demon king. Needless to say, he was powerful. As for Yu Qiren and Ling Jiaojiao, they were popular candidates. Let's talk about Yu Nu. He was ranked slightly higher than Yu Ruo. He was also stronger than Yu Ruo. Of course, the most terrifying thing about Yu Nu wasn't his strength, but his terrifying eye technique. From the previous battles, it could be seen that anyone who fought Yu Nu was defeated before the battle even started. They were completely defeated by his eye technique. More interestingly, Yu Nu and Yu Luo were brothers. Yu Luo had been killed by Ling Xiao. Yu Nu remembered this clearly. He had been looking forward to meeting Ling Xiao. Anyway, this round wasn't over yet. The possibility of meeting him was still high. 13th round, Yu Qiren against Ling Jiaojiao. Although the Yu family changed Ling Jiaojiao's name. When the puppet referee announced it, he directly called Ling Jiaojiao's original name. This made the Yu family a little unhappy. But thinking about it carefully, Ling Jiaojiao's body had already been possessed by the demon Venerable. So what if her name was Ling Jiaojiao? This made him feel carefree in his heart. It didn't matter anymore. Qiren, admit defeat, Yu Xiangtian said indifferently. The Yu family also hoped to make Ling Jiaojiao the next demon venerable. Although Yu Qiren and Ling Jiaojiao's current cultivation were the same, Ling Jiaojiao was still possessed by the demon venerable. So her future potential was great. Naturally, she was more suitable to become the demon venerable. Father, I'm not willing! Yu Qiren gritted his teeth and said, I want to test my strength. Letting him lose without a fight, he felt that it was too cowardly. Even if he wanted to support Ling Jiaojiao to become the demon venerable, he still had to perform well. If he could get the demon emperor's appreciation, that would be the best. Forget it. If you want to fight, then fight. After all, he was his son. He couldn't bear to see him sink too low. Besides, Yu Qiren was almost 100 years old. His cultivation had been hovering near the 9th level of the core fragmentation realm, unable to advance any further. Perhaps this battle was an opportunity for Yu Qilian. Perhaps he could make a breakthrough and reach the divine physique realm. If that happened, the Yu family would have another demon king. This was very important for the Yu family's future status in the demon venerable region. Thank you, father! Yu Qiren took a deep breath. He cupped his hands at Ling Jiaojiao and said, Although I know I was disrespectful to you, demon son, I hope you can teach me a thing or two. Yu Qiren's words were very respectful, but there was a strong sense of confidence in them. Apart from the dark horse Yu Zhangzong, he and Ling Jiaojiao were the 2 strongest people. Even if Ling Jiaojiao could surpass him in the future, he still hoped to win today. You can't, Ling Jiaojiao said indifferently, perfectly displaying the demon son's arrogance. I didn't expect Sister Jiaojiao's acting skills to be so good. I was worried that she would reveal some clues because of her hatred. Hearing Ling Jiaojiao's words, Ling Xiao breathed a sigh of relief. Ling Jiaojiao didn't use a weapon. She just stood there and released the aura of a demon sovereign. Many of the audience members felt extremely uncomfortable. This made the Yu family even more convinced that Ling Jiaojiao had been possessed by the demon sovereign. They had never imagined that the demon Venerate's soul had actually been refined by Ling Xiao, Ling Jiaojiao, and the Yuan Venerate. Half a month ago, you were only at the peak of the extreme realm of core. But now, you're already at the 9th level of the shattered core stage. Your breakthrough is truly shocking. Perhaps this is the benefit of being a devil's son. But half a month ago, you weren't my match. Now you still aren't my match. Yu Kilian showed the arrogance of a young man. Xiaoshu Xiaoshu M. 3 cubed caret x to the power of O, M. Worth collecting unadvertised novel. Chapter 4294. Haha, is that so? Do you know why I'm the demon's son? No need to talk nonsense, let's decide the outcome in one move. Don't waste other people's time. I'll let you know what the demon's son represents, and I'll let you understand that you have no advantage in front of me. Ling Jiaojiao sneered. All right, I like to decide the outcome in one move. Yu Qiren nodded. They were all on the same side. If the battle lasted too long, it would be easy to expose their trump cards. It would be better to decide the outcome in one move. Fight! With a roar, Yu Qiren turned into an afterimage and pounced at Ling Jiaojiao. A black light flashed in Ling Jiaojiao's eyes. With a light step, her figure also rose into the air. At that moment, many people couldn't see what they did. They were too fast. In an instant, they passed by each other. Bang! Yu Qiren landed first. There was a black handprint on his shoulder. The handprint was almost imprinted on his bone, and it was very painful to look at. His clothes had already been corroded. Looking at Ling Jiaojiao, she was unharmed. Her entire body was still intact. Even her clothes were not damaged at all. The only damaged part was a fingernail on her index finger. It was obviously cut by the blade. You're not weak. You can be considered a genius to not die from one of my moves. Ling Jiaojiao glanced at the fingernail on the ground and said softly. Puff. Yu Qiren wanted to speak, but he spat out a mouthful of black blood. His face instantly turned pale. I lost. I'm indeed not your match. Yu Qiren sighed and recalled the battle just now. His sword was blocked by Ling Jiaojiao's finger. The opponent's right palm directly imprinted on his shoulder. The process was so simple, but under that speed, Ling Jiaojiao's performance was much better than his. Boom! Yu Qiren's shadow shrank by half, to 25 feet. And Ling Jiaojiao's shadow grew to 80 feet, almost approaching Yu Zhangzong's. That's it! The people below the stage didn't understand what had happened. The battle they were looking forward to was actually over. It was really awkward. Isn't that the end? This is a showdown between experts. In the blink of an eye, the result was already out. The experts can probably see what happened. We can't, our eyesight is too bad. That's true. Although it ended very quickly, the battle was indeed very exciting. In the crowd's discussion, Ling Jiaojiao and Yu Qiren walked out of the stage. The match continued. The battle in the middle of the airport battle. Sometimes the audience wondered if this match had been arranged in advance. She was really good at keeping people in suspense. The reason was simple. People like dark horses. They like to see changes and not like the kind of fixed result. Yu Nu was a third-level expert of the course-shattering realm. But the gap was still huge. He shouldn't win. But Ling Xiao liked to make some accidents. This gave the audience even more anticipation. Yu Nu is someone who cultivates soul-devouring demonic eyes. I don't know how Ling Xiao will deal with him. Yeah, I also heard that the soul-devouring demonic eyes can even absorb the opponent's soul. It's quite terrifying. Ling Xiao, this is definitely going to be another hurdle. But I still believe in him. On the stage, Ling Xiao and Yu Nu were fighting 100 meters apart. This big stage was more comfortable than the small stage. The space to perform was larger. Facing Yu Nu, Ling Xiao absolutely didn't dare to underestimate him. Although the soul-devouring demonic eyes wasn't as good as the demonic eyes. But he couldn't be underestimated either. Most importantly, what Yu Nu relied on was not just the soul-devouring demonic eyes. His own combat strength was not inferior to Yu Rua at all. This was absolutely a tough battle. Of course, he wouldn't be afraid. Forget about Yu Nu, even if he faced Yu Qianren, he wouldn't be afraid either. This was due to personality, and had nothing to do with strength. The soul-devouring demonic eyes can pry into the opponent's soul. Ling Xiao is a martial artist adept in techniques. I'm afraid there's no way this time. Yeah, rumors say that you can see things in 3 seconds. This is quite impressive. 3 seconds is enough to change the result of a battle. Anyway, it's not easy to fight. Let's see if Ling Xiao has a new trump card or not. Anyway, this guy is hard to say. Yeah, facing Ling Xiao, no one dares to say for sure that they will win. The audience below the stage was still discussing fervently. Clearly, the focus of the discussion was all on the soul-devouring demonic eyes. This was a terrifying ocular art that could pry into the soul and see through the future. You're very strong. You'll be even stronger in the future. I won't underestimate you. So, you must be defeated. Yu Nu looked at Ling Xiao, his eyes flickering with a faint demonic light as he said coldly. Ling Xiao didn't underestimate him. He also didn't underestimate Ling Xiao. Because the soul-devouring demonic eyes told him that Ling Xiao was very strong, especially in the future, he would be even stronger. If he couldn't take advantage of the present to defeat Ling Xiao, then he definitely wouldn't have another chance in the future. You're wrong. Not only will I be very strong in the future, but I'm also very strong now. Ling Xiao showed a smile. Really arrogant enough. Yu Nu nodded. He didn't want to be defeated by Ling Xiao like Yu Ruo, so he had to be very careful. Ling Xiao was the first seeded player he faced. He must get a good start, otherwise, it would be too embarrassing. Please advise. The moment Yu Nu's voice fell, the long sword in his hand stabbed out. Although he also used a sword, it was different from a swordsman who focused on practicing the sword. The sword in his hand was just an auxiliary tool. Deceitful sword! Swoosh! A sword light broke through the air and stabbed straight at Ling Xiao's vital part. However, this sword light was deceitful. It moved irregularly in the air. It was not straight, nor was it simply curved. It was hard to resist. Ling Xiao raised his sword to block. Yu Nu sneered. Pretending to hold the sword in your right hand to block, but in fact, your left hand is blocking the sword light, and your right hand is attacking me at the same time. He said these words directly. And what he said was exactly what Ling Xiao did. All of Ling Xiao's movements were accurately predicted by him. No, to be precise, he saw it. So powerful, is this the soul-devouring demonic eyes? Ling Xiao is really in trouble. No matter what he does, he will be predicted. How can he fight? Ling Xiao was not anxious, but the audience below the stage was already nervous. Interesting, I understand. Ling Xiao looked at the sword wound pierced through his left shoulder and smiled. Understand? What do you understand? Yu Nu said disdainfully. Chapter 4295. If you can see the movement after 3 seconds, then I can see your movement after 7 seconds. Ling Xiao smiled faintly. Humph, bluff! Yu Nu snorted coldly, and used the sly sword again. Chi! This time, the sly sword was only able to fly 2 meters before it was torn apart by another sword light. It was as if Ling Xiao had judged the trajectory of this sly sword in advance. This is impossible! Why is it different from what I saw? Yu Nu was stunned. The situation after 3 seconds judged by his soul-devouring magic pupil was completely different from what Ling Xiao was doing now. Could it be that the soul-devouring magic pupil failed? I said that you can see the movement after 3 seconds, but I can see through 7 seconds. It's enough for me to react. So you will lose, Ling Xiao said faintly. I don't believe it. How could Yu Nu believe this kind of thing? He had always regarded his soul-devouring magic pupil as a treasure. And the soul-devouring magic pupil had never disappointed him. But today, Ling Xiao actually said so. He couldn't accept it. Take another blow from me, Phantom Sword. The Phantom Sword had 10 phantoms. In fact, only one of them was real. Ding! However, this time, it was exactly the same as before. Ling Xiao still found the real sword shadow with one sword. And it was torn apart. It's my turn to fight back. Ling Xiao smiled gently, stepped out the falling plum-clear shadow step, and charged toward Yu Nu, who was originally calm, was already a little flustered at this time. He had never underestimated Ling Xiao. But this battle, he was really a little confused. The trend of the battle was completely different from what he imagined. It was as if he was being led by the nose by Ling Xiao. It was too cowardly. Sly shadow! Whoosh! In order to avoid Ling Xiao's pursuit, Yu knew. His figure turned into a faint afterimage and disappeared on the spot. Then, he actually went to the left side of Ling Xiao and suddenly stabbed out with his sword. This time, I'll see how you dodge. Yu Nu didn't believe that Ling Xiao could still win after he reached this point. However, to his horror, there was a sword waiting there. It was like waiting for him to attack. It easily tore apart his sword chi and pierced his shoulder with a single sword strike. It could be said that he had taken revenge for what had happened in the beginning. How is this possible? Covering his shoulder, Yu Nu retreated frantically and his figure disappeared again. At this time, he was no longer as calm as he was at the beginning. Ling Xiao was much stronger than he imagined. His carefully planned sneak attack was like child's play in front of the other party. Was easily blocked. This feeling made him feel very aggrieved. It was as if all his actions were all predicted by the opponent. Just the thought of it was terrifying. The audience below the stage couldn't understand either. Damn it! I don't believe it! It must be a coincidence! The next moment, Yu Nu turned into hundreds of afterimages, running around Ling Xiao nonstop. It was impossible to judge his original body at all. The audience was directly dizzy. But the corners of Ling Xiao's mouth raised a disdainful sneer. He suddenly blasted out a palm. Heaven-covering great handprint! The next moment, the afterimage was gone. A figure was blasted out, vomiting blood wildly from his mouth. See, I said enough. Not only will I be very strong in the future, but I'm also very strong now. Your eyes only saw the future 3 seconds later, but ignored the present. Ling Xiao looked at Yu Nu, who got up from the ground and sneered. Do you still want to continue? In front of me, you have no chance. I lost. Yu Nu shook his head. Although the injuries on his body were not serious, his confidence had been completely destroyed. Tell me, how did you do it? He couldn't help but ask. This is a trade secret. I can't tell you. Otherwise, how can I win next? Ling Xiao smiled. After the referee announced the result, he turned around and walked down the stage. Actually, the entire process was very simple. It was impossible for him to see the things 7 seconds later. But he could use the heavenly demon eyes to make Yu Nu hallucinate. This way, the world that Yu Nu saw 3 seconds later every time was actually what he wanted the other party to see. So every attack of the other party was within his expectations. Actually, this kind of martial artist who used ocular arts or soul force was Ling Xiao's favorite instead. Because it was easier to win. Too amazing, he created a miracle. But I still don't understand how he did it. The battle was already over, but the audience below the stage still could not understand what happened. It was muddle-headed, like a dream. Sigh, the unlucky Yu Nu, all of his means were analyzed thoroughly. Clearly, his strength is so much stronger than Ling Xiao. But why does it feel like he lost even more miserably than Yu Ruo? Right, not on the same level at all. The 20th match, Yu Zhongzong vs. Xingyun. What? Everyone who was discussing suddenly stopped talking, because the next battle was even more surprising. Yu Zhongzong and Xingyun were the last pair of seeded contestants to fight. Many people knew Yu Zhongzong's identity. After the Battle of Fengdu Demon Forest, he mysteriously disappeared. Many people even said that he was dead. But this time, Yu Zhongzong suddenly appeared again. Not only did he appear, but his strength also increased greatly. It was simply an incredible increase. All of a sudden, he became an existence that surpassed even Yu Qiren and Ling Jiaojiao among the demon venerable candidates. In addition, this guy's methods were incomparably cruel. So many people had an indescribable fear of him. His opponent, Xingyun, was also brilliant. Before Yu Zhongzong appeared, Xingyun was the third most popular candidate. And now, he was also fourth on the heaven list. However, Xingyan did not seem to be satisfied with this ranking. He came to find Yukurin for revenge. If he was satisfied with the status quo, it would be boring. Perhaps in this battle, we will know Yu Zhongzong's true strength. That's right, even if Xingyun is not as good as him, he is still fourth on the heaven list. He is second only to Yukurin. No matter what, he will be able to force Yu Zhongzong to show his true strength. I'm really looking forward to it. Amidst the audience's anticipation, the two jumped into the arena. They were more than 100 meters apart. The difference was that Yu Zhongzong sneered, but he did not release his aura. Xingyun, on the other hand, was much more active. His violent aura continued to rise. Blood-colored vital essence covered his entire body. He was like a fierce wolf that had made a provocative move. Kid, I see that your talent is not bad. Why don't you join me? Yu Zhongzong suddenly spoke. Anyway, many people had probably guessed his situation, so he was too lazy to hide it. As long as the referee did not let him withdraw, it did not matter. Who the hell are you? Xingyun asked coldly. It doesn't matter who I am, the key is that I see that you are a promising talent, so I cherish your talent. Yu Zhongzong smiled faintly. Genius remembered this site's address in a second. Pinnacle mobile version reading website. Chapter 4296. The human demon lord was now a general without an army, so he had been thinking about finding himself a helper. Xingyun was strong and talented. Obviously, he was very suitable. If you want me to join you, defeat me first! Xingyun roared. After saying that, his aura became more powerful, and the air was filled with the thick smell of blood. Yu Zhongzong smiled. Not bad, not bad. Your combat power is comparable to that of Yukurin. But in front of me, it's not enough. Anyone can talk big, but that's not the truth. Xingyun roared. A blood-red saber appeared in his hand. The saber released a fierce fighting spirit, which was even stronger than Dao Shulan's saber intent. It was very funny. Blood battle everywhere! With one slash, the blood-red saber aura roared wildly. It turned into a huge blood-red saber, full of killing intent and bloody aura. It was violent and manic. It directly attacked Yu Zhongzong. It's futile! Facing Xingyun's violent attack, Yu Zhongzong just smiled faintly and waved casually. With a boom, the saber aura shattered. Xingyun was even forced to take a few steps back. How can this be? Xingyun was shocked. Residual blood 8 slashes. Generally, martial arts with numbers had a combo effect. Xingyun's saber technique was the same. When this saber was used, the entire arena turned blood-red. It was like a bloody battlefield. Countless soldiers died tragically on the battlefield. Killing intent shrouded the entire arena. Countless spectators trembled. I told you, it's useless! This time, Yu Zhongzong did not even make a move. Strange black ripples appeared around his body. It was difficult to see with the naked eye. Only Ling Xiao had the Tai Chi eye, so he could see it. Rumble! 8 consecutive slashes. All of them were blocked more than 3 meters away from Yu Zhongzong. After the 8th slash, Xingyun was directly sent flying and fell to the ground again. Yu Zhongzong did not pursue. Instead, he looked at Xingyun with a smile. As if he was chatting with an old friend, he smiled and said, I told you, you can't be my opponent. The gap between us is too big. I admit defeat. Although Xingyun had even more powerful martial techniques, he wasn't prepared to try them out. Yu Zhongzong was an insurmountable mountain. He was much more powerful than he had imagined. Rather than exposing his trump card for nothing, he might as well admit defeat. His true opponent was Yukilian. The person he wanted to kill was Yukilian. That's right. Go back and think about it. Following me won't do you any harm. Yu Zhongzong smiled. I'll consider it. However, if you want me to become your man, you have to at least get first place in the Demon Sovereign Candidate competition. Otherwise, why should I? Xingyun said. Don't worry, the first place will definitely be mine. Yu Zhangzong sneered and turned to walk down the stage. The referee had already announced the result, so there was no need to waste any more time. I didn't expect Xingyun to lose to Yu Zhangzong so easily. Is the gap too big? Sigh, to think that I was hoping that luck would force out Yu Zhangzong's true abilities. Now, it seems like it's just wishful thinking. The audience below the stage didn't have enough fun watching. It was Xingyun attacking the whole time, while Yu Zhangzong was completely on the defensive. In the end, after only 2 exchanges, Xingyun admitted defeat. This wasn't very exciting. Perhaps we should be looking forward to Ling Xiao the most. This dark horse really makes people look forward to it. The audience below the stage thought of Ling Xiao as the person who challenged the heaven list. Many people even couldn't help but put themselves in Ling Xiao's shoes. They actually felt a little excited. After the battle between Yu Zhangzong and Xingyun, the following matches were still very exciting. However, as the audience, they still hoped to see the confrontation between the seeded contestants. That would be exciting enough. Finally, the 63rd round was over. The 64th round officially began. Some of the audience who went out to the toilet ran back, as if afraid of missing the exciting scene. However, they came a little too early. In the first 10 matches, none of them were between the seeded contestants. Until the 11th match. Finally, a match between the seeded contestants appeared. This time, the 2 fighting were Jian Wuqing and Yu Nu facing Ling Xiao. Yu Nu practically didn't unleash his advantage and was defeated. Therefore, he actually felt very vexed. This time, facing Jian Wuqing, he was determined to turn the tables. Jian Wuqing's cultivation was the same as his, belonging to the 4th level of the Shattered Core realm. That 1 level higher than him, but the gap in actual combat was not very big. Therefore, he had a chance to win. After all, even though Jian Wuqing was powerful, he was not Ling Xiao in the end. Not as unpredictable as Ling Xiao. The moment these 2 people came up, they directly started fighting. Even though Jian Wuqing was stronger than Yu Nu. But Yu Nu relied on the soul-devouring devil eyes and actually fought with Jian Wuqing until it was hard to tell who would win. He even occupied a certain advantage. This made Yu Nu, who was originally almost about to completely lose confidence, regain confidence. It turned out that it wasn't that his soul-devouring devil eyes failed. It was that Ling Xiao had some kind of way to restrain him. I thought that Yu Nu wasn't that strong. Didn't expect that he actually performed so outstandingly in the battle with Jian Wuqing. Jian Wuqing's cultivation is stronger than his, but he can actually suppress his opponent. Looking at it this way, it shows how terrifying Ling Xiao is. Yeah, Ling Xiao is too mysterious and too strange. I really don't know how powerful that kid is. It was originally a showdown between Jian Wuqing and Yu Nu. But people were discussing Ling Xiao instead. A little perfection Earth Core realm martial artist had already created God knows how many mythical miracles. But people were still very greedy, still hoping that he could do more amazing things. On the stage, Jian Wuqing did very well. He could still remain undefeated under the situation where his sword move was seen through by the other party. It was already very powerful. But he couldn't break Yu Nu's eye technique. He couldn't reverse the decline. Finally, at a certain moment, Yu Nu took advantage of Jian Wuqing's flaw and knocked him down the stage. They had won the battle. The moment he won the battle, he actually knelt on the stage and cried bitterly. It was too difficult. He lost to Ling Xiao in the first match between the seeded contestants. He thought that he was finished. Maybe this is what they mean by everything has its nemesis. Ling Xiao perfectly restrained Yu Nu. And Yu Nu perfectly restrained Jian Wuqing. It's not that Jian Wuqing is too weak, it's just that he doesn't have a way to deal with Yu Nu. This evaluation was more pertinent. But it was meaningless. A loss was a loss. After defeating Dao Shuilan, Jian Wuqing was very happy for a while. But now, he really wanted to cry. Dao Shuilan's face didn't look too good. Jian Wuqing wasn't Yu Nu's opponent, and he didn't seem to find a way to deal with the soul-devouring devil eyes. It was really bad. Genius 1 second. Remember the site address. Mobile version reading website. Chapter 4297. After 5 rounds of battle between Jian Wuqing and Yu Nu, it was Ling Zhao's turn again. His opponent this time was Qi Niming. Qi Niming had already recovered, and he used the Broken Core Divine Water to break through to the 3rd level of the Broken Core realm. He could be said to be the strongest person under 50 years old in the Heavenly Demon Ghost region. Even Ghost Sword couldn't compare to him. The two stood on the stage. Qi Niming smiled bitterly and said, "How about I admit defeat? I can't do it to you. Come on, just treat it as a spar. We haven't really fought yet. Don't show mercy, let me see your true strength." Ling Xiao shook his head. This battle would help Qi Niming adapt to his current cultivation. It would also help Ling Xiao to improve. It was good for both of them, so naturally he couldn't let it go. "Okay, then I won't be polite. Bloodthirsty Demon Sword." After breaking through, the negative effects of the Bloodthirsty Demon Sword almost didn't exist. Therefore, Qi Niming immediately used this move. Facing Ling Xiao, he really didn't dare to underestimate him. Ling Xiao was the most mysterious and unpredictable martial artist he had ever seen. Like Yu Zhongzong and Yu Qiren, he could see that they were very strong at a glance. But Ling Xiao was different. You couldn't see how strong he was, but as long as you fought with him, you would know how strong he was. And this strength was almost limitless. So he didn't dare to underestimate him. Tyrannical Sword Intent was released. Qi Niming really had to fight with all his strength. Due to the breakthrough in his cultivation, his combat power was much stronger than when he was fighting against Fire Spirit. The power of each sword was dozens of times stronger than before. Fire Spirit frowned when he saw this. Ling Xiao must have given Qi Niming some kind of elixir, right? Otherwise, Qi Niming's strength wouldn't have increased so quickly. Now that he was facing Qi Niming, although he still had the confidence to win, he definitely didn't dare to take Qi Niming's bloodthirsty demon sword head-on. Because it was courting death. Ling Xiao faced Qi Niming's bloodthirsty demon sword with both hands. At the same time, he used the 23 dragon-subduing swords to deal with it. He displayed his combat skills to the extreme. His figure flickered as he broke Qi Niming's attack. However, Ling Xiao understood very well. The bloodthirsty demonic sword was the same as the 23 dragons subduing swords. The closer it was to the end, the more powerful it would be. A momentary advantage did not mean that it would last forever. However, he wanted to use his strongest sword move against Qi Niming. Let's see who's stronger. Ding 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 ding. The sword shadows of both sides kept flashing and colliding on the arena. The sound of metal clashing could be heard. Every time the sword chi was released, it would cause the entire arena to tremble. Every time, the audience's hearts were tightly entangled. Anyone could see that Qi Niming was much stronger than before. But Ling Xiao was still not at a disadvantage when facing him. In terms of attack power, Ling Xiao was at a disadvantage. However, his skills were too powerful, and he could often learn from his opponent's strengths to make up for his weaknesses. Using one's strengths to attack the opponent's weaknesses. Even Qi Niming was brought into a very uncomfortable rhythm by Ling Xiao. No matter how he fought, it was not smooth. Bloodthirsty demon sword, the last sword, kill! In order to get rid of this uncomfortable feeling, Qi Niming could only attack and no longer continue to accumulate strength. Boom! A tyrannical power directly blasted out. Brother, are you crazy? You'll kill him! Below the arena, Qi Yaoguang shouted nervously. If it were her, she would definitely not fight with Ling Xiao. They were clearly on the same side. Little girl, don't be afraid. Ling Xiao won't die so easily. The one who will lose is your brother. Behind him, Green Lotus Swordswoman laughed. On the arena, Qi Niming was stunned and smiled bitterly. Ling Xiao's sword was actually on his neck. If this was a real battle, he would probably be dead. You're still too impulsive. Ling Xiao sighed and said. Actually, if you continue to endure and find a suitable opportunity to explode, it would be much better than your careless explosiveness. You only cared about your own strength and did not notice that I had already changed the position of the falling plum shadow with my main body. I've lost. Qi Niming smiled bitterly. But could this be blamed on him? Whoever fought with Ling Xiao would have the same rhythm. Ling Xiao's most powerful ability was to make his opponent completely lose their cool and become impulsive. Once this happened, his opponent would be finished. Ling Xiao, your cultivation is clearly not strong, but your battle skills are simply inferior to us old guys. Flame Emperor shook his head and sighed. If they were at the same cultivation level, he believed that he would definitely not be Ling Xiao's opponent. He might even be toyed with by his opponent. Flame Emperor, you only think so, but I've already experienced it. Green Lotus Swordswoman had suppressed her cultivation level to the same level as Ling Xiao in the battle. In the end, she was led by the nose by Ling Xiao and was easily defeated. So she already knew. Ling Xiao, this bastard, in terms of battle skills, was simply a monster. Humph, so what if he's skilled? It's fine as long as he's stronger. Xing Yun snorted coldly. Although you're a bit arrogant, it's the truth. If he's only at the peak of the core realm, then his limit would be a martial artist at the 3rd level of the core shattering realm. Against a martial artist at the 4th level of the core shattering realm, he has no chance of winning. In the end, he's just a support. Without enough strength, it's useless. Fire Spirit nodded and said. While the two of them were talking, another battle began. And it was a battle between the strong, a battle between the seeded contestants. Ling Jiaojiao against Dao Shuilan. One had to admit that Dao Shuilan was already very strong. But her battle with Ling Jiaojiao was a perfect example of the saying that strength was king. Ling Jiaojiao only used one move and knocked Dao Shuilan off the stage. Dao Shuilan had no chance at all. This scene also made the audience realize how terrifying Ling Jiaojiao was. Most likely, among the martial artists present, besides Yu Zhongzong, there was no one else who could suppress her. Yu Qilian had already lost to her. Xing Yun was probably not as good as Yu Qilian. There was no need to talk about the others. There was another person that people had high hopes for, and that was Ling Xiao. Although now it seemed that Ling Xiao's strength was not as strong as imagined. But it was hard to say later. The battles continued. At the 25th round of the 64th round, it was another battle between the strong. Yu Zhongzong against Fire Spirit. Fire Spirit defeated Qi Niming in the first battle, showing his strength. But even so, when facing Yu Zhongzong, no one thought highly of him. Because Yu Zhongzong's performance was too terrifying. The birth of elemental life is really magical. Why don't you join me? Yu Zhongzong was very particular when looking for subordinates. Xing Yun and the Yu family had a grudge, so he could make use of it. Fire Spirit was an elemental spirit, and could be said to have no power. It was better to take him in. Genius 1 second. Remember the site address. Mobile version reading website. Chapter 4298. If he subdued Fire Spirit, he might be able to bring in many elemental spirits. That would be a very good situation for a human demon king. But Fire Spirit's temper wasn't very good. Let's talk after we fight. With that, Fire Spirit pounced on Yu Zhongzong. The flames that soared to the sky also proved his anger. Someone actually wanted to subdue him. How could he accept that? Yu Zhongzong looked at Fire Spirit's attack with a calm expression. He didn't even move. He just let Fire Spirit attack. Just as the opponent's attack was about to land on him, another strange thing happened. A black wave flashed. Fire Spirit was sent flying by the impact. I lost! Fire Spirit didn't say anything and turned to walk down the stage. With just one attack, he understood how terrifying Yu Zhongzong was. Today's Demon Emperor candidate was probably none other than Yu Zhongzong. This Yu Zhongzong is so scary, he still has a complete victory, and he defeated Xing Yun and Fire Spirit. His record of complete victories is much more valuable than Ling Xiao's record of complete victories. Yeah, let's keep watching. After all, there can only be one person who can maintain a complete victory in the end, or none at all. 26th battle, Yu Qiren vs Xing Yun. This was definitely a heavyweight battle. The audience actually understood what was going on. The current rankings on the heaven list were basically confirmed. First, Yu Zhongzong. Second, Ling Jiaojiao. But after the third, there was no way to confirm. But Yu Qi-rin and Xing Yun's battle basically confirmed who was the third. If Yu Qi-rin could defeat Xing Yun, then no one could defeat him. Of course, that dark horse didn't count because no one knew who that guy was. So far, Yu Qi-ren's only loss was to Ling Jiaojiao. Xing Yun's only loss was to Yu Zhongzong. Although these two didn't have complete victories. One of them lost to the second and the other to the first. It wasn't embarrassing. Ling Xiao, who do you think will win? Qi Niming asked. It's hard to say. Yu Qi-ren's cultivation is higher than Xing Yun's. But Xing Yun has obviously experienced more setbacks than Yu Qi-ren and has more battle experience. Therefore, in this battle, it was really impossible to judge their strength on the surface. It could only be said that whoever performed better would win. I'm more optimistic about Xing Yun. He has a burning hatred for Yu Qilian. Hatred could make a person extremely powerful. Of course, this is also a double-edged sword. If he is completely blinded by hatred, then he will definitely lose. Ling Xiao analyzed. You might as well not have said anything. Qi Niming rolled his eyes and looked at the stage. In the end, it all depended on the battle. Analysis was always unreliable. On the battle stage, Yu Qilian was 100 meters away from Xing Yun. Nebula did not hide his hatred and power. The blood-red true essence made him look even more ferocious. This was clearly more ruthless than when he dealt with Yu Zhongzong. Do we have a grudge? Yu Qiren asked. Perhaps you have already forgotten, but I will make you remember that poor girl. She died a horrible death. As soon as Xing Yun finished speaking, he immediately attacked. Battle of the Four Directions. Behind him, the faint silhouette of a woman appeared. This woman seemed to be condensed by a blood-red light. It was Xing Yun's martial soul. This man is very affectionate. I'm more and more hoping that he can win. Ling Xiao sighed. His martial soul is probably condensed from his girlfriend's remnant soul. The blood-red saber rushed madly at Yu Qilian. Yu Qilian's eyes flashed with a serious light. Xing Yun's cultivation was at the 8th level of the core fragmentation realm, and he was at the 9th level. Although one level higher, his opponent's battle intent was much stronger than his. Ever since he lost to Ling Jiaojiao, he lost the qualification to compete for the Demon Sovereign's position. So he felt a little empty in his heart. In comparison, his battle intent was naturally not as strong as Xing Yun's. However, it was impossible for him to admit defeat just like that. Demon Shadow Annihilation! Sword Soul Steel! Yu Qilian's sword shook. The sharp edge of the sword stabbed at Xing Yun's attack. Clang! The sword and saber collided. Xing Yun's attack was obviously blocked and could not continue. I seem to have a bit of an impression of the martial soul behind you. When Yu Qilian was fighting, he was also observing Xing Yun's martial soul. He felt that it was somewhat familiar. But too many people had died under his hands. With just this little impression, it was impossible for him to remember. If you can't remember, then continue to remember. Blood 8 cuts. Xing Yun released an even more powerful attack. The violent saber intent slashed down one after another. However, although the saber intent was powerful. But after the 5th slash, it was broken by Yu Qilian. Although Yu Qilian's experience in battle was not as good as Xing Yun's. However, he was not an inexperienced piece of trash. In addition, he was a genius himself, and his ability to adapt to the situation was extremely strong. After blocking Xing Yun's attack, Yu Qilian suddenly began to counterattack. A sword stabbed at Xing Yun's vital point. Clang! This sword was blocked by Xing Yun. The two of them were really evenly matched, and neither was able to gain the upper hand. Demon Shadow Sword Art, Immortal Annihilation! Yu Qilian was no longer imagining things. He could tell that Nebula wanted his life. Since that was the case, he couldn't not be on guard. Because he didn't want to die. Although he couldn't compete for the qualifications of the Demon Emperor candidate. But this life was his, and he would not casually throw it away. "Break for me!" Xingyun roared, and even the martial soul behind him became ferocious. Holding the saber with both hands, he blocked Euclion's attack. And he had no intention of retreating at all. Instead, his fighting spirit became more and more high. "Although I don't know why you hate me so much, if you continue like this, don't blame me for being impolite." Euclion's face became gloomy. He was also enraged by the beating. On the long sword in his hand, a black shadow flickered. At the same time, a demonic figure finally appeared behind him. It was also his martial soul. After fighting for so long, this was the first time he used his martial soul. This was proof of his anger. On the other hand, it was enough to prove that Xingyun gave him a lot of pressure. "No matter what, I have to defeat you today, or else I won't be able to appease my girlfriend's soul in heaven." Xingyun knew very well that even if he gave it his all, he wouldn't be able to kill Euclion. So he was satisfied to be able to defeat and humiliate his opponent. "Since you're so stubborn, don't blame me for being impolite. Let's end this in 3 moves." Euclion took a deep breath. The long sword in his hand suddenly burned with black flames. 9 demonic flames! There was no doubt that Euclion was very terrifying when he got serious. 9 streaks of black flames turned into 9 deadly sword chi that bloomed at the same time. They stabbed directly at Xingyun. Xingyun resisted with all his might and retreated continuously. His body was still pierced by the sword and he almost fell off the stage. Genius 1 second. Remember this site address. Mobile version reading website. Chapter 4299. "It's over!" Euclion looked at Xingyun coldly. Even now, he still didn't understand why Xingyun was looking for trouble with him. But it seemed there was no need to know. Since Xingyun wanted to kill him, he would just kill him. This was the code of conduct of the Yu family. "Heaven-destroying blow!" Euclion shouted coldly, the sword in his hand spinning as he stabbed at Xingyun. The spiraling sword chi produced a crazy dazzling light in the air. Xingyun seemed to have no chance. He could choose to jump off the stage and admit defeat. Otherwise, his body would be pierced by the sword. But at the last moment, Xingyun's body turned crimson red. He suddenly attacked at a speed that Euclion didn't expect at all. He risked being stabbed by the sword. The sword cut into Euclion's body. Euclion was cut in half. Euclion, whose body had been cut in half, still managed to stab Xingyun with his sword. Xingyun was sent flying and fell onto the stage. A terrifying wound appeared on Xingyun's body. I didn't expect Xingyun to be so patient, using the blood spirit demonic art at the last moment. He seriously injured Euclion. But he still lost. Qi Niming sighed. Maybe he doesn't care about winning or losing, he just wants Euclion to suffer. Although he fell out of the arena, Euclion's injuries are more serious than his. Ling Xiao sighed. Sure enough, a person who wanted revenge was extremely dangerous, because you simply didn't know what crazy things he would do. That makes sense. Fortunately, this is an arena battle, otherwise Euclion would definitely die. Qi Niming also nodded his head, feeling a little emotional. Of course, most of the audience didn't care about this. They cared more about who won. Euclion deserves to be 3rd on the heaven ranking. But Xingyun is also terrifying, 4th on the heaven ranking isn't a big problem. Now let's see who gets 5th. Amidst the discussion, the 64th round was quickly coming to an end. As for Xingyun and Euclion, they had been sent to their respective sects to treat their injuries. In order to face the next challenge, they couldn't let anything happen to them. Fortunately, they all had powerful forces behind them. Otherwise, if they were ordinary people, they wouldn't have the qualifications to continue if they were injured. The 64th round ended, and the 65th round began. The first 3 matches were still not between the seeded players. However, in the 4th match, Yu Zhongzong faced Yu Nu. This battle, Yu Nu did not take the field at all and directly admitted defeat. With his soul-devouring demonic eyes, he knew how terrifying Yu Zhongzong was. If he went up, he would just be throwing his life away. There was no need for that. The 11th match, Xingyun against Dao Shuilan. Currently, Xingyun's injuries had mostly recovered. However, there would definitely be some problems. Hence, Dao Shuilan might not necessarily lose to him. It made his cultivation reach the 3rd level of the core-shattering realm. Ling Xiao was well aware of what level of power he should use against the person he was dealing with. It shouldn't be a problem for him to defeat Fire Spirit, who was at the 6th level of the core-shattering realm. Of course, it still depended on the performance in the battle. So far, Fire Spirit was known as the one with the strongest defense among all the seeded contestants. And Ling Xiao was known as the one with the strongest fighting skills. The encounter of these two people was very interesting. Of course, people were looking forward to Ling Xiao, the Dark Horse's performance that would shock them the most. Otherwise, it would be boring. On the huge arena, the two stood facing each other. Fire Spirit was domineering. Ling Xiao was calm as usual. To be honest, I really can't see through you. Can you tell me what your true cultivation is? Fire Spirit scratched his head and asked. My true cultivation? Ling Xiao smiled and said. Perfect Earth Core Realm. Hee, you really know how to joke. If you're really at the perfect Earth Core Realm, then I can't fight with you. Otherwise, it'll be an unfair victory. Fire Spirit smiled. Actually, you don't have to care about my cultivation. Just attack with all your strength. Ling Xiao said lightly. All right, if that's the case, then I won't hold back. Furious Flame 18 Fists. It was the first time Fire Spirit used a martial skill. He definitely thought highly of Ling Xiao. He didn't even use a martial skill when facing a martial artist with a higher cultivation than Ling Xiao. But this time he did. Please remember the domain name of this book. Come read the mobile version website. Chapter 4300. Facing Fire Spirit's terrifying fist wind. Ling Xiao stabbed out with his sword. He still used the 23 dragon subduing swords. Boom! Their attacks didn't collide. Instead, they hit their opponents separately. Fire Spirit's first attack hit Ling Xiao's body, forcing Ling Xiao back 4 to 5 steps. However, Ling Xiao's sword Qi also pierced through Fire Spirit's body. This attack was actually evenly matched. 3rd level of the Shattered Core Realm. Is this your true cultivation? Fire Spirit was shocked. The audience was even more dumbfounded. Could it be that Ling Xiao was still hiding his strength when he faced the Shattered Core Realm martial artist? Just how strong was this guy? I told you, my true cultivation is only at the complete Earth Core Realm. Ling Xiao said lightly. All right, it doesn't matter. It's enough that you have such strength. Fire Spirit pounced forward again, using the 18 fists of furious flame. Ling Xiao didn't hold back either, using the 23 dragon subduing swords. The two actually started to fight on the stage. They all said that Ling Xiao was a skill-based martial artist. However, he didn't have any intention of dodging this battle. Fire Spirit didn't dodge either. The two exchanged more than 20 attacks. In the end, Fire Spirit smiled bitterly and shook his head. I lost. I didn't expect you to be so skilled. Moreover, even his physical body was so strong. What is your weakness? Weakness? Of course, cultivation. Ling Xiao thought about it and said. Still joking? You're only 18 years old and you're already at the 3rd level of the Shattered Core Realm. You're even more terrifying than the Demon Emperor. You actually said that your cultivation is low. Are you trying to anger me to death? Fire Spirit sighed and turned to leave. Ling Xiao also sighed. He was the clearest about his own cultivation. Compared to these experts, he couldn't do it. If he didn't have the power of the demonic Dutchman's flower, he wouldn't even be able to stand here. Therefore, even though he won consecutively, he didn't feel proud at all. However, the audience had already started to discuss. I didn't expect Ling Xiao to be so strong. He's probably going to be a dark horse until the end of the competition. Yes, Fire Spirit's winning streak has ended. I wonder who will Ling Xiao defeat next? If that's the case, the 5th place on the heaven leaderboard should belong to Ling Xiao. Round 30, Ling Jiaojiao vs. Jian Wuqing. Naturally, there was no suspense in this battle. Jiajiao's SS the difference's strength was too huge, there was nothing he could do. Soon, round 65th round originally, everyone thought the competition would continue. There shouldn't Fang, however, in this round, Yu Zhangzong's opponent was Ling Jiaojiao. The other rankings aside, the battle between the two had suddenly arrived. As a result, the competition among the candidates for the position of Demon Venerable suddenly became tense. No matter which one of them won, the others might not be a match for them. Under everyone's gaze, Yu Zhangzong and Ling Jiaojiao went up to the arena. However, this battle was far simpler than everyone had imagined. Just one move. Yu Zhangzong defeated Ling Jiaojiao. He released his terrifying aura of a divine body first level. Divine body realm! How is this possible? How can someone under 100 years old cultivate to this level? Looks like there's no need for this demon venerable candidate battle to continue. Yu Zhangzong has already won. Yeah, who can be his opponent? Hearing everyone's discussion, Yu Zhangzong was very proud. He turned to look at the judges. Although you're puppet judges, you can't not understand such a simple thing, right? There's no need for this battle to continue, right? The puppet judges discussed for a while. Finally, they made a decision. According to everyone's comprehensive judgment, the top 10 are: first, Yu Zhangzong; second, Ling Jiaojiao; third, Yu Qilian; fourth, Xing Yun; fifth, Ling Xiao; sixth, Fire Spirit; seventh, Jian Wuqing; eighth, Qi Niming; ninth, Yu Nu; 10th, Dao Shuilan. If there's no objection, these 10 can stay in the Demon Venerable City to cultivate. The final candidate to become the Demon Venerable candidate will be Yu Zhangzong. The puppet judges discussed for a long time and still felt that there was no need to continue the battle. Because the result was very obvious, the probability of an accident was very low. Haha, what can they not accept? Even if all 9 of them come at me together, they won't be my match. Yu Zhangzong sneered, completely domineering. Even though many people, including the Yu family, were displeased, the Yu family was also very displeased. But Yu Zhangzong's strength was there, and they couldn't do anything. This was the Demon Venerable City, and they couldn't do anything, so they could only let Yu Zhangzong do whatever he wanted. Yu Zhangzong laughed wildly. After he obtained the right to become the Demon Venerable's successor, he could learn a lot of good things from the Demon Emperor. In the future, it would be very easy for him to dominate this Demon Venerable City. He believed that with his talent, there would be no problem. This time, he took over Yu Zhangzong's body to participate in the Demon Venerable candidate battle. He was right to come. I have an objection. Ling Xiao looked at Ling Jiaojiao indifferently. Although Ling Jiaojiao was injured by Yu Zhangzong, her injuries weren't serious. So he didn't need to worry. What he needed to do now was to rely on his own strength to stop the human demon king from obtaining the right to become the Demon Venerable's successor. You! Everyone was very familiar with Ling Xiao. In the 65th round of this competition, he was the dark horse among the dark horses. Now, he stood out again. But the problem was, with his 3rd level of the core-shattering realm cultivation, how could he be a match for a 1st-level divine physique realm martial artist? Ling Xiao was overestimating himself. Ha ha ha, I wanted to find trouble with you, but I didn't expect you to send yourself to me first. Seeing that it was Ling Xiao, Yu Zhangzong laughed very happily. When they were fighting for the demonic epiphyllum in the Fengdu Devil Forest, Ling Xiao had caused him a lot of trouble. Now that he had the chance to take revenge, he was naturally very happy. Don't be rash, Ling Xiao! Qi Niming shouted. Don't worry, I'm not rash. Ling Xiao was very calm now. The right to become the Demon Venerable's successor was either him or Ling Jiaojiao. It definitely couldn't be anyone else. The Yu family had no reason to stop him. Just right, let this brat and the person who took over his body kill each other, and in the end, our Yu family can sit back and reap the benefits. Yu Xiangtian sneered. This old fox had thought it through very well. But he didn't consider that since Ling Xiao stood out, how could he let their Yu family take advantage of him? Although the current Ling Xiao had devoured all the demonic epiphyllum, he only raised his strength to the 9th level of the core-shattering realm. He didn't continue to raise it. After all, if he raised it to the divine physique realm, he could only maintain it for half an hour. He wouldn't do that if it wasn't necessary. Chapter 4301. What if that kid uses the power of the demonic Sirius? Yuqiren asked worriedly. Isn't that good? He can use the power of the demonic Sirius to deal with the human demon king. To us, there are only advantages and no disadvantages. That way, we'll have less to worry about. Yu Xiangtian sneered. That's not a problem. What I'm worried about now is whether Ancestor Heavenbreaker will succeed or not. What is it? Yuqiren asked curiously. Before the demon sovereign took over Ling Jiaojiao's body, he drew out the structure of the demon sovereign city from his memory. He also told me and Ancestor Heavenbreaker a way to temporarily stop the operation of the demon sovereign city. Although it will consume a lot of high-grade spirit stones, the stoppage will only last for an hour. But that's enough for our Yu family. Whether it's the human demon king or Ling Xiao who gets the right to be the successor, they will all die. The final winner will only be our Yu family. Yu Xiangtian sneered. Amazing! Yuqiren was pleasantly surprised. He thought that things were out of control, but it turned out that everything was under the control of the Yu family. In other words, what we have to do now is to watch those two guys kill each other. Yuqiren laughed. That's right. Let's watch the show slowly. Ancestor Heavenbreaker has sent a message that everything is going smoothly. In about 10 minutes, it will be done. Give the order, and everyone in the Yu family is ready. Kill all the cultivators who don't belong to our Yu family in the shortest time possible. Yu Xiangtian sneered. Therefore, Yuqiren informed the Yu family about this matter and waited for the demon's sovereign city to stop operating temporarily. Within an hour after the puppet stopped working, all the competitors present would be executed. In this way, even the City of Gold wouldn't know how Ling Xiao died. Not to mention revenge. Kid, you should know who I am, right? On the stage, the human demon king sneered at Ling Xiao. Whether or not he could become the successor of the demon sovereign, this Ling Xiao must be killed. Otherwise, his dead son's spirit in heaven would not be able to rest in peace. A dignified human demon king actually possessed someone else to participate in the selection of the demon sovereign's successor. Don't you find it embarrassing? Ling Xiao looked at the human demon king and mocked. Cut the crap, I'll kill you first. When enemies meet, their eyes turn red. The human demon king naturally wouldn't let this opportunity slip by. An incomparably terrifying aura was suddenly released. The black demonic shadow grew to a height of several hundred feet. The terrifying pressure caused the audience below the stage to flee. Only a few experts dared to come closer to watch. This was the strength of a divine physique echelon expert. Even if he was only at the first level of the divine physique echelon. But that was already in existence on another level. Compared to the divine core realm, he was much stronger. Buzz! At this moment, Ling Xiao's two swords were unsheathed. The Dongxing Heavenly Sword and Dongxing Demonic Sword became one. It transformed into the Dongxing Fiend God Sword. The sharp sword energy actually pierced through the demonic human king's aura. Even though you're releasing the aura of a first-level divine body echelon cultivator, it's still not enough. But if I'm not wrong, you're still in the core fragmentation realm. You're just much stronger than an ordinary 9th stage core fragmentation realm cultivator. In the end, this isn't your body. Ling Xiao's Tai Chi eye flickered with a strange light. Perhaps only he could tell that the human demon king was just putting on an act. Humph, even if that's the case, so what? Do you really think you can win against me? Having his true cultivation seen through, the human demon king's expression became unsightly. But he was still confident. Although he wasn't in the divine physique echelon realm, he was still an invincible existence. Ling Xiao was just a 3rd stage core fragmentation realm cultivator. how could he possibly be his match? The human demon king stopped unleashing his aura, and the several hundred feet tall demonic shadow started shrinking back into his body. The aura unleashed had become weaker, but the aura inside his body had become even more terrifying. Holding the Dong Xing Fiend God sword in his hand, Ling Xiao stared at the human demon king. His eyes were filled with the confidence to win. He couldn't lose this battle. If he lost, not only would he die, Ling Jiajia would die as well. Even Green Lotus Swordswoman and Ancestor Scarlet Flame would be implicated. Who would have thought that the battle for the successor of the demon venerable would turn out like this? The audience felt that it was a bit strange. I think this is pretty good. The final battle is about to begin. Perhaps the human demon king is finally going to erupt with his true strength. Of course, the audience didn't know about the Yu family's scheme. They only wanted to see if it was Ling Xiao who killed the human demon king, or if it was the human demon king who killed Ling Xiao. Brat, take my fist first! Demonic dragon's bite! Boom! The entire arena trembled. Spiderweb-like cracks actually appeared on the originally solid ground, spreading in all directions. The light wall protecting the arena also trembled unceasingly, as if it was about to shatter. In the next moment, a black demonic dragon broke through the sky. It instantly pounced on Ling Xiao. It wanted to swallow Ling Xiao whole. The surrounding air crackled under the pressure, as if it was a glass ball that was about to shatter. This fist represented the human demon king's true strength. Whether it was facing Ling Jiaojiao or other opponents, he did not reveal his true strength. It could be seen that he really hated Ling Xiao to the bone. No matter how strong Ling Xiao was, he wanted to use all his strength to kill Ling Xiao. Heaven-covering palm! Ling Xiao did not show any weakness. The Dong Xing demon god's sword in his right hand continued to gather sword intent. His left hand blasted out. A black palm stretched out from the void. As if it was the hand of God, it wanted to crush the demonic spirit. Boom! The palm collided with the demonic dragon. A terrifying explosion sounded in the air. The terrifying force of the collision formed visible energy waves. The explosion of energy actually caused the light wall to have a 10-meter tall edge. In some places, small cracks even appeared. Black energy was released from these cracks, like a balloon that had run out of gas. It was just that this energy was black. Boom! In the next moment, the light wall completely shattered. Fortunately, the majority of the martial artists had already retreated far away. Otherwise, they would definitely suffer a calamity, because the area within 100 meters of the arena had been razed to the ground. This destructive power was simply terrifying to the extreme. F***CK, luckily we escaped quickly. Otherwise, we would have become ghosts in their battle. Yeah, just the residual energy from the collision was more terrifying than my full-strength attack. What's going on with these two? It's natural for the human demon king to be powerful because he's in the first level of the divine physique echelon. But what's up with Ling Xiao? That attack just now was definitely not something that a third-level core shattering stage could unleash. Peak 9th level core shattering stage! Xingyun clenched his teeth and smiled bitterly. If the human demon king had used such a method to deal with him, he would definitely be dead. Ling Xiao, how strong are you? Please remember the domain name of this book. Come read the mobile version of this book. Chapter 4302. This time, both Ling Xiao and the human devil king were pushed back dozens of steps. Although the attack seemed powerful, it was still the same. In truth, either of them had used their strongest attack. The human devil king looked down on Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao, on the other hand, wanted to probe and observe. As the saying went, know yourself and know your enemy, and you will never be defeated. His understanding of the human devil king was still lacking. This attack gave him a lot to think about. You're really strong. If it were any other peak 9th stage shattered core cultivator, they wouldn't have been able to block such a terrifying attack. You're the same. You can actually erupt with the strength of a peak 9th stage shattered core cultivator. Moreover, you're much stronger than ordinary cultivators of the same stage. I really don't know how you did it. The human devil king was also shocked. Hee, no matter how I did it, you're not afraid, are you? Ling Xiao mocked. Afraid? Ha ha! The human devil king laughed madly. I really underestimated you with this attack. However, I won't be merciful in the next attack. You really think you're all that? I'm sorry, but the heaven-covering palm can't be said to be my strongest attack. Ling Xiao shrugged. I have more trump cards than you think. These two lunatics, one isn't using his full strength and the other is just probing. Just how strong are they? I don't know how strong they are, but one thing is for sure. After today's battle, if Ling Xiao doesn't die, his name will spread throughout the heavenly demon ghost region. Even people from other realms will hear of his name. The audience was shaken to the core as they watched. They were also extremely nervous. This battle was too exciting. This was definitely the most exciting battle of the demon venerable successor selection this time. Damn it! This Ling Xiao! Yu Killian could accept that the human devil king was stronger than him. But for Ling Xiao to be this strong, Yu Killian just couldn't understand it. What was it that made Ling Xiao so terrifying? Killian, don't panic. No matter what made him stronger, he'll still die. Yu Xiangtian was also very confused. He didn't know that the heavenly demon epiphyllum's power could be used at different levels. Ling Xiao had suddenly become stronger, but he hadn't reached the divine physique echelon, so he really didn't expect Ling Xiao to use the heavenly demon epiphyllum. On the stage, neither Ling Xiao nor the human devil king was in the mood to listen to what the others thought. Holding the Dong Xingfian God sword, Ling Xiao circulated the true yuan in his body. The sharp sword intent continued to rise. His aura became stronger and stronger. With the accumulation of his previous accumulation, this sword of the heavenly demon ghost region wasn't a weak. The human demon kings of the heavens of the heavens of the human devil king of the heavens. Boom! At some point, the two of them attacked at almost the same time, either of them willing to fall behind. The fourth stage of the 12 divine beasts technique. Of the blood of the ice dragon of the flying flame of the radiant holy light tiger. 4 kinds of beast gods roared as they flew out from the eastern victory demon god's sword. They condensed into one body in midair. They turned into terrifying beasts from the ancient times, wanting to tear everything in this world to shreds. Whether it was speed or power, both were breathtaking. Demon King Tyrant Fist! The human demon king didn't dare to be careless, erupting with his strongest move. The powerful fist directly compressed the air in front of him. A vacuum appeared in front of him. Bang! The sword light and fist imprint collided once again. The entire stage shook once again. The cracks that were already there became even more obvious. Countless pieces of gravel were sent flying. They turned into dust in an instant. In the next instant, they exploded. The terrifying energy fluctuations became the audience's nightmare once again. Ling Xiao's figure retreated rapidly, somersaulting several times in the air before he could steady himself. Too powerful. According to Ling Xiao's intuition, the human demon king's fist had reached the level of a peak 10th order emperor ranked martial skill. Ling Xiao's 12 divine beast technique's 4th layer, without using the sky tyrant martial spirit, could only erupt with the power of a high 9th order emperor ranked martial skill. The gap between their martial skills was too big. Therefore, Ling Xiao suffered a great loss this time. This was the disadvantage of using external items to increase one's strength. His strength increased, but the grade of his martial skills did not. How do I win? Ling Xiao stood still, looking at the human demon king in the distance. Although the human demon king's situation was much better than Ling Xiao's, he couldn't immediately chase after him. Ling Xiao's sword intent combined with his sword skills, in addition to the Eastern Victory Demon God's sword's amplification, was not easy to deal with. Interesting, too interesting. I don't care how you managed to raise your strength to this level. But you actually used a 9th Order Emperor ranked martial skill to fight against my 10th Order Emperor ranked martial skill to this extent. It can be seen that the weapon in your hand is extraordinary. Greed appeared in the human demon king's eyes. He obviously had his eyes on Ling Zhao's Eastern Victory Demon God's sword. However, you should have realized that no matter how hard you try, you can't defeat me. In the end, your martial skills are too weak. My strength can still increase. The more I get used to this body, the greater the gap between us. Chapter 4303. The first 9 moves of the 23 subduing dragon swords combined was comparable to the 4th layer of the 12 divine beasts technique. But it saved a lot of effort. Bang! The two collided once again. And it was a head-on collision. The human demon king was still strong enough. This punch directly shattered the fusion of the 9 forms, although the power of the punch was weakened by a lot. It still landed on Ling Zhao's head. Ling Zhao was sent flying by the attack. He felt like his head was in a daze. This time, Ling Zhao suffered a big loss. The human demon king wouldn't miss this opportunity. He once again urged his true essence. He punched out. Demonic Dragon's Bite! The reason why he didn't use the Demon King Tyrant Fist was because it was on cooldown and couldn't be used consecutively. That move was too strong, and its execution speed was too slow. The human demon king was afraid that Ling Zhao would have a chance to react. If that happened, he wouldn't be able to take advantage of it. Hell's Shadow Rabbit Beast Soul Skill, Shadow Warrior Transformation. At this critical moment, Ling Zhao's figure suddenly disappeared. In the next moment, he appeared behind the human demon king. Hell's Shadow Strike. Ling Zhao didn't like to suffer losses. If he suffered losses, he would earn it back. At this moment, the human demon king had just used the demonic dragon's bite. In an attacking position, he couldn't defend and could only forcefully dodge. However, the sword still left an eye-catching wound on his arm. Blood dripped down. The human demon king's face became incomparably gloomy. At this moment, everyone was mesmerized by the scene. Even the Yu family's martial artists were shocked. The human demon king's strength didn't need to be mentioned. His attacks looked simple, but each of them had the terrifying power to destroy heaven and earth. And Ling Zhao's martial skills and strength were inferior to his, yet he was still able to injure him. Strange. This Ling Zhao's fighting skills are already at the Grandmaster level. Yeah, even the older generation's martial artists who are stronger than him wouldn't be able to change like this. Is this why a beast god's martial artist is so terrifying? I don't know. I've never seen a beast god's martial artist. At the beginning of the battle, almost no one was optimistic about Ling Zhao. Even those on Ling Zhao's side had doubts about the battle between Ling Zhao and the human devil king. From their point of view, even if Ling Zhao used the demonic Sirius final power, he might not be the human devil king's match. But what's interesting is that Ling Zhao is now fighting back and forth with the human devil king. He was not at a disadvantage. This kid definitely can't be left alive. I can guarantee that even martial artists who have just stepped into the divine body realm aren't as terrifying as this kid. Yu Xiangtian's expression became very ugly. Previously, he was still considering whether or not to kill Ling Zhao. After all, if news of him killing Ling Zhao was leaked, the City of Gold might take revenge on him. But now, he had made up his mind. Ling Zhao was already their enemy. If they didn't kill him now, they probably wouldn't have the chance to do so in the future. This brat's strength had already exceeded his imagination. Would he still dare to let him continue to grow? This brat, you two listen up. Even if you die, you must protect him. He will definitely be the first person from our Gold Sky region to step into the Eternal Desert in the future. The Flame Emperor was very excited. This was the first time he was so excited to see a battle between Shattered Core Realm martial artists. This brat really has a lot of tricks up his sleeves. It's really impossible to guard against him. The human devil king looked at Ling Zhao with some fear in his eyes. At the beginning, he didn't put Ling Zhao in his eyes at all. But now, he was afraid. It wasn't that he had changed. It was that Ling Zhao had exploded with even more power, making him feel fear. If he hadn't reacted fast enough, that sword would have pierced his back. Although that wouldn't have killed him. But it definitely wouldn't have felt good. Once he was seriously injured, he would gradually lose his advantage. I seem to have found a way to win. Ling Xiao finally found something interesting. Although his strength increased, the power of his martial skills didn't increase. But the power of his divine abilities increased as his strength increased. Although it would still decrease in the future, that was a matter for the future. Right now, he could rely on the Beast God's special skills and divine abilities to defeat the human Devil King. Bloodthirsty Plague. Ling Xiao quietly released the Bloodthirsty Plague, not only against the human Devil King. It also targeted the Yu family martial artists. Although he didn't know why the Yu family was still so calm. He believed that the other party must be plotting something. Therefore, releasing the Bloodthirsty Plague early could continue to weaken the Yu family martial artists. Although the current Bloodthirsty Plague was weakening slowly, it was still soundless. By the time the enemy discovered it, it was already too late. Of course, the Bloodthirsty Plague was only the first step. It could only weaken the enemy. If he wanted to completely defeat the human Devil King, he would have to rely on his special skills. Huff. The human Devil King let out a long breath, and his eyes became incomparably cold. Even I am jealous of your talent. So, I won't give you any chance to hurt me. You've said this kind of nonsense more than once. Don't you think it's boring? You speak as if you're high and mighty and can't tolerate being defeated. But today, I'm going to defeat you. I'll make you lose all dignity. Ling Xiao coldly looked at the human Devil King. At this point, no matter what the human Devil King said to threaten him, he wouldn't care. Fine, then let's try. As he spoke, the human Devil King's figure flashed, and he arrived in front of Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao calmly looked at all this, using the falling plum-clear shadow steps and cosmic body to dodge. Right now, the human Devil King's morale was at its peak, so there was no need to face the enemy head-on. In any case, he had already released the Bloodthirsty Plague. As long as he could avoid the other party's attacks, he would do his best to do so. On the field, two afterimages flickered. One chased, the other dodged. The majority of the martial artists couldn't even see the appearance of the two. It was all guesswork. Caught you. Die for me. After no less than 3 minutes, the human Devil King suddenly roared. After unremitting efforts, he had caught Ling Gao's weak point. A Devil King Tyrant fist punched out. Ling Zhao's lips curved into a cold sneer. You fell for it. Vajra Beast Soul Transformation. Indestructible Vajra. Impervious to fire and water. The instant the Devil King Tyrant fist arrived, Ling Xiao activated his ultimate defense. His current indestructible Vajra defense had reached the level of a peak 10th Order Emperor Realm Master. Therefore, even if the other party used the Devil King Tyrant fist, Huang Xiaolong wasn't afraid. Rumble! Ling Xiao took the attack head-on. Then, the giant staff in his hand smashed out. The human Devil King didn't have time to react. He was hit squarely by the staff. The human Devil King fell flat on the ground, causing the stage to cave in. However, Ling Xiao had no way to chase after the human Devil King. After taking the Devil King Tyrant fist head-on, his body staggered 4 to 5 steps back. A trace of blood seeped out from the corner of his mouth. What a crazy battle, but how did Ling Zhao's defense become so strong all of a sudden? The audience was dumbfounded watching this. Genius 1 second. Remember this site address. Mobile version reading website. Chapter 4304. Pa! Spitting out a mouthful of bloody saliva, the human demon king's eyes instantly narrowed. Ling Xiao, you make me too excited. Originally, I was saving this move to deal with the human demon kings of the Yu family. You little brats really don't deserve to be here. But now, I'm going to use it. Otherwise, it would be a bit difficult to defeat you. The majority of martial artists couldn't use their full strength in battle. They had to leave some life-saving skills behind. The human demon king was like this, but Ling Xiao was also like this. But now, the human demon king was really desperate because he couldn't find any other way to kill Ling Xiao. And it was even more impossible for him to admit defeat. He was very clear what the result would be if he admitted defeat. Therefore, he had no choice but to use this trump card. Speaking of which, I don't know if this body can withstand this power. If it can't, then give me your body. It's much better than this trash body. The human demon king didn't just fancy the two swords in Ling Xiao's hands. He also fancied Ling Xiao's body. Ling Xiao looked at the human demon king, his expression still indifferent. He naturally knew that the human demon king had a trump card. He was also on guard. His opponent had a trump card, but how could he not? He had more than one trump card. Trump card? I actually want to see what your so-called trump card is. Ling Xiao chuckled. You're actually not afraid at all? The human demon king frowned. It seems that you don't understand the terror of this trump card. Don't you think that you're talking too much nonsense? Ling Xiao indifferently said. From the beginning, you've been acting all high and mighty. As if you're much stronger than me. But now, you've only lightly injured me. You can't even seriously injure me, so how can you kill me? How surprising are these two lunatics? Both of them still have trump cards? The audience already didn't know what words to use to express their shock. The two people in the arena had displayed extremely powerful reaction and combat ability. It was so powerful that it was suffocating. Humph, arrogant bastard! Do you really think that this demon king only has this little bit of ability? Boom! Human devil king's body released a tyrannical black gas. Cracks began to appear on his body. Damn it! As expected, this is the limit. What a trashy body. Human devil king sighed. But this is enough. My strength has increased by at least 30 times. Even if I don't release all of the energy in my body, it's enough to defeat him. He looked up at Ling Xiao. However, he discovered that Ling Xiao had released his barrier martial spirit. The entire arena was shrouded in golden light, and there was also a layer of isolation array. As a result, the people outside could not see what was happening inside. In fact, he could only sense a tiny bit of the power within it. Chapter 4305. You family, Red Robe sect, Green Radish sect, Yang family, Blood Spirit sect, listen to my order. Immediately seal the exit of Demon Sovereign City. We have an hour to eliminate all the enemies. Begin! At this moment, Yu Xiangtian spoke. Many neutral cultivators had yet to understand what was happening. The Yu family and their allies had already surrounded this place. Fire Emperor, Ancestor Scarlet Flame, Sword Maiden Green Lotus, Qi Niming, Qi Yaoguang, Black Pearl, and others immediately gathered together. Ling Xiao had already made arrangements before. No matter what the situation on the stage was. When the Yu family began to move, everyone must gather together to avoid being defeated one by one. Damn it, Yu Xiangtian, what are you doing? Aren't you afraid of the Demon Emperor's punishment? Fire Spirit frowned. He was the hope of the Fire Spirit race. Now that he was trapped here, the situation was quite critical. The Demon Emperor has no time to come here. Right, everything that happened here today will be hidden forever. So, including Ghost Sword, you can't live. Yu Xiangtian sneered. The plan had succeeded. Then even if it was the Demon Emperor's disciple, they must not be released. Otherwise, even if one person leaked the news, it could bring disaster to the Yu family. And before the battle, he didn't need anyone to join or surrender. Because it was not safe. Kill! With Yu Xiangtian's order, the Yu family's cultivators rushed out and began to slaughter the neutral cultivators. Has the Yu family's ambition really been exposed? At this moment, the martial spirit barrier on the stage was lifted. Ling Zhao's figure appeared. But the human demon king was nowhere to be seen. This stunned Yu Xiangtian for a moment. I didn't expect you to really kill the human demon king. I really want to know what secrets are in your body. Yu Xiangtian looked at Ling Xiao with an extremely gloomy face. Ling Xiao had already developed in the direction they didn't want to see the most. That would pose a great threat to them. This was something no one wanted to see. The audience was also very surprised, but they didn't have the mood to marvel at this time. The Yu family and their allies had already started a massacre. A large number of cultivators were killed in an instant. The remaining people were gradually surrounded with the stage as the center. Heaven and earth didn't respond. Heaven and earth. Jiao Jiao, you two join forces and kill Ling Xiao, Yu Xiangtian said coldly. This was a training for Ling Jiaojiao and Yu, so that they could get rid of their inner demons. After all, Ling Xiao had killed a human devil king. As long as they killed Ling Xiao, that side would no longer sink. Yes! The two of them tore through the air and pounced toward Ling Xiao. Suddenly, a cold light flashed. Yu was killed. There was no suspicion. Jiao Yu. Although she lost in the battle with the human devil king, her injuries weren't serious. She was stronger than Yu Qiuring to begin with. Yu. Seeing this scene, everyone in the Yu family was dumbfounded. The demonic son that they had painstakingly nurtured had actually killed a genius of the Yu family, as well as the son of the patriarch. Yu Jiao, what are you doing? Yu Xiangtian was stunned. Everyone was stunned. This scene happened too suddenly. Idiot, my name is Ling Jiao, not Yu Jiao. Ling Jiao said coldly as she landed beside Ling Xiao. You didn't expect this, did you, Yu Xiangtian? Ling Xiao said sarcastically. You thought the demon sovereign had successfully taken over my sister's body. Little did you know that my sister and I joined forces to refine the demon sovereign. He has now completely disappeared from this world. You! This is impossible! How could the two of you do it? Yu Xiangtian simply couldn't believe such a thing. The demon sovereign's soul was incomparably powerful, unless there was a soul stronger than his. Otherwise, wanting to refine it would be pure nonsense. He guessed right. Ling Xiao and Ling Jiaojiao had succeeded with the help of a Yuan venerate. Ling Xiao wouldn't say anything if it wasn't enough. It doesn't matter if you believe it or not. That's the truth now. Your Yu family is always scheming, but in the end, you will only suffer losses and even be exterminated. The demon sovereign is dead. You have no hope. Yu Qilian is dead. You have no future. I want to see what other tricks your Yu family has and what other outrageous things you want to do. Ling Xiao looked at Yu Xiangtian and laughed disdainfully. You deserve to die. You deserve to die. Yu Xiangtian could no longer remain calm at this time. Even if the plan this time was completely successful, he would have no son. The demon sovereign was also dead. It was really a Pyrrhic victory. Moreover, it was still unknown whether they could achieve a Pyrrhic victory. Despicable Ling Xiao, if this demon king doesn't kill you today, I'm not human. Yu Xiangtian pounced crazily at Ling Xiao. The power of a true divine physique echelon erupted. Ling Xiao had no way to resist at all. Of course, he didn't need to resist. Things were far from reaching the point where he had to unleash all the power of the demonic epiphyllum. Bang! Yu Xiangtian, who had rushed at Ling Xiao, was sent flying back again. His body somersaulted a few times in the air before he stood firm. There was blood seeping out of the corner of his mouth. Who exactly are you? Yu Xiangtian looked at the person standing in front of Ling Xiao in horror. The mysterious person who had once appeared at the alchemy conference. He had always known, but he had never understood this person's identity. You don't need to know who I am. You only need to understand that if you want to kill Ling Xiao, you'll have to step over my dead body first. The Fire Emperor was very domineering. Damn it! The three of you, join hands with me and destroy this old thing. Yu Xiangtian looked at the Green Vine cult leader, the Red Robe cult leader, and the Blood Spirit cult leader and roared. That's the only way! The four demon kings joined hands to deal with the Fire Emperor. The Fire Emperor was fighting 1 against 4. Ling Xiao was a little worried at first. But after watching for a while, he realized that there shouldn't be any problems in the short term. Only then did he relax. Since your Yu family insists on becoming enemies with me, Ling Xiao, then I'm sorry. Today, I'll definitely make your family bleed. Ling Xiao sneered. Since he had already used the power of the demonic epiphyllum, he couldn't waste it. He arrived in front of Yurua in an instant. Then, he pierced Yurua's dantian with his sword. He killed her. Dingtian, Wentian, Lianhua. The three of you go deal with Ling Xiao and Ling Jiaojiao. The rest of you, get rid of those neutral martial artists as soon as possible. There were still many core fragmentation realm martial artists in the Yu family, the three religions, and the Yang family. Therefore, their overall strength was still very strong. Even with Ling Xiao, Ling Jiaojiao, and the Fire Emperor, they still had the upper hand. They killed the neutral martial artists until they were miserable. Of course, the neutral martial artists weren't weak either. Ghost Sword, Fire Spirit, Jian Wuqing, and Dao Shuilan were all powerful figures. In addition, there were Qi Niming, Green Lotus Swordswoman, Ancestor Scarlet Flame, and other experts. The Yu family and their allies had also suffered many losses. This was simply a chaotic battle. Sister Jiaojiao, go down and help those neutral martial artists. If one of them survives, your chances of ruling the Fengdu Devil Kingdom will be greater. Ling Xiao looked at the three experts, Yu Dingtian, Yu Wentian, and Yu Lianhua, and turned to Ling Jiaojiao. Genius 1 second. Remember this site address. Mobile version reading website. The person that Ling Xiao hated the most was still Yu Wentian. This fellow had repeatedly caused trouble for him, wanting to kill him. He even came up with many crooked ideas. Now, he naturally had to take revenge. Chi! Crack! The eyes shattered, and the sword directly pierced through Yu Wentian's dantian. With his nidin shattered, Yu Wentian let out an unwilling cry. His body fell to the ground. He was no longer breathing. At this moment, Yu Dingtian and Yu Lianhua broke free from the restraints of the frost dragon breath. They fled into the distance. There was Yu Patian, who was rushing over. Ancestor, save us! They cried out in terror. Yu Wentian's death caused Yu Dingtian and Yu Lianhua to completely lose their fighting spirit. They had completely become stray dogs. Kid, if you dare to make a move, I'll let you die without a burial ground. Yu Potion's voice was heard, revealing an extremely strong anger and a commanding tone. Ling Xiao laughed. It's fine if you don't threaten me, but the more you threaten me, the more I want to kill you. Heaven-covering palm print. It was aimed at Yu Dingtian. Ling Xiao blasted his palm down. A terrifying palm wind descended from the sky. It directly slammed Yu Dingtian to the ground, smashing him to the point that even his own mother wouldn't recognize him. He was completely smashed into pieces. This fellow is really a lunatic. When everyone saw Ling Xiao's crazy appearance, they all sucked in a breath of cold air. Arrogant. Too arrogant. Facing the divine physique realm ancestor level Yu Patian, Ling Xiao actually still killed Yu Dingtian. Wasn't that a little too daring? I, Yu Patian, haven't seen anyone dare to kill a member of the Yu family in front of me for a long time. Yu Potion's voice was incomparably gloomy. It was like a vengeful spirit that wanted to take his life. He was really angry. He didn't even give face to Yu Patian. Even if this kid was Huang Jindi's son, he had to kill him. Otherwise, how could he, Yu Patian, survive in the future? However, facing Yu Potion's threat, Ling Xiao smiled faintly. Then you're really honored. Today, you saw how your own descendant died. You. Ling Xiao's words made Yu Patian even angrier. Good. Very good. Really very good. Your talent and courage are the most valiant young man I've ever seen. But unfortunately you didn't listen. People who don't listen deserve to die. As he spoke, a biting cold killing intent was released from Yu Potion's body. He turned into a demonic shadow and pounced towards Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao, not only will I kill you today, I'll also torture you. I'll make you beg for death. Yu Potion's terrifying aura continued to rise. Ling Xiao gritted his teeth. This old thing was indeed powerful. It seemed that he had no choice but to use all the energy of the heavenly demon epiphyllum. Patriarch, is it necessary for you to personally deal with such a piece of trash? The two of us are enough. At this moment, a frivolous voice sounded. Two black-clothed and masked weirdos stepped out from the darkness. Ling Xiao remembered one of them very clearly. It was that night when he chased after the murderer for the 13 dragons subduing swords. It was the masked man he encountered. If it wasn't for Green Lotus Swordswoman and Patriarch Scarlet Flame arriving in time, he would probably have been killed. At that time, he only felt that this person was very strong. However, he wasn't so sure how strong he was. Today was different. His cultivation had temporarily reached the peak of the 9th level of the core-shattering realm. This masked man's strength was also on the verge of being revealed. First level of the Divine Body Realm. A true first level of the Divine Body Realm. The leader of the Yu family's assassination organization, the Demon King in the Darkness. He was also one of the Yu family's trump cards. Others thought that the Yu family only had 2 Demon Kings. However, they didn't know that there was another one moving in the darkness. A large number of Qi family's martial artists died in the hands of this person. The other person was a woman dressed in red with a red veil covering her face. Although she wasn't in the Divine Body Realm, she was a top-notch 9th level core-shattering realm martial artist. She felt that she was even stronger than the human Demon King who possessed Yu Zhongzhou. These two people wanted to join forces to deal with Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao was really popular. Fine, you two, and this quickly. I'll go help Xiangtian and the rest. At this moment, the situation on Yu Xiangtian's side was a little bad. Even if it was 4 against 1, they couldn't do anything to the Fire Emperor. Instead, they were being suppressed miserably by the Fire Emperor. Yu Patian didn't dare to underestimate anyone now. No matter who was the Yu family's enemy, they had to die. Genius 1 second remember the site address. Mobile version reading website. Chapter 4307. Yin-Yang Twin Ghosts. This was the title of the pair in front of him. The man was called Yin Ghost, and the woman was called Yang Ghost, also known as Red Ghost. The difficult one was a first-level Divine Body Realm expert, and the woman was a 9th-level Shattered Core Realm expert. Yu Patian was absolutely assured with the two of them making a move. Remember, don't kill this kid. I want his body, Yu Patian said coldly. Ling Xiao had repeatedly displayed miracles, which had already aroused Yu Potion's interest. It would be a pity to kill Ling Xiao just like that. It would be more valuable to keep this kid's body for research. Patriarch, don't worry. The two of us will take good care of this kid. We will definitely let him suffer all kinds of pain before capturing him alive. At that time, whether it's research or torture, it will be up to you. Yin Ghost sneered. That time in Fengdu City, he didn't make a move because of Sword Lady Green Lotus and Patriarch Crimson Flame's arrival. But today was a good opportunity. As they spoke, the two of them walked towards Ling Xiao from left and right. Their eyes revealed a look of ridicule. To be honest, a Divine Body Realm martial artist and a 9th-level Shattered Core Realm martial artist. Working together to deal with Ling Xiao was really thinking too highly of Ling Xiao. It even felt like using a sledgehammer to crack a nut. Ling Xiao stood there, still not having the intention to completely absorb the power of the heavenly demon epiphyllum. He wanted to use this power at the most critical moment. Right now, it wasn't to that extent yet. The terrifying beast god aura kept surging out of his body. The power of the bloodthirsty plague was still unknowingly weakening the enemy. Even if it was 1 against 2, he still had a chance of winning. It would depend on how he performed. Feeling the terrifying aura surging out of Ling Xiao's body, Yin Ghost and Yang Ghost looked at each other and smiled. Fortunately, we met this kid at this time and not in the future. Otherwise, it would really be difficult to win against such a guy. The reason why they smiled was because they felt that they were lucky. Even if they were enemies, they had to admit that Ling Xiao's terrifying talent was really shocking. Don't hold back. The Yin ghost looked at the Yang ghost and suddenly burst out with a terrifying aura. It rushed towards Ling Xiao like lightning. There was a thunderous sound in the air. At the same time, Yang ghost also moved. She knew that she was weaker than the Yin ghost, so she was one step slower. It was for the sake of protecting himself. He let the evil ghost absorb Ling Xiao's attack as much as possible. She could then assist from the side. A disdainful smile appeared on Ling Xiao's lips. Did he really think that just because the Yang ghost attacked first, I had to deal with him first? Purple lightning bull beast soul, earthquakes and mountains sway. Ling Xiao suddenly stomped his foot. A huge purple lightning bull appeared behind him. Then, he stepped on the ground crazily. The entire ground began to shake. At that moment, the Yin ghost and the Yang ghost both felt dizzy and their movements slowed down. Although it was only for a moment. However, Ling Xiao would not let go of this excellent opportunity. His figure had already disappeared on the spot. He appeared behind Yang ghost. A powerful palm force formed in his hand. A terrifying black shadow appeared behind him. Then, the entire battlefield was wrapped in black poisonous fog. When Ling Xiao released the Tyrant martial soul, he also released the 9-snake poison domain. Don't underestimate the 9-snake poison domain. Ling Xiao's current cultivation had reached the peak of the 9th level of the core shattering realm. The 9-snake poison domain was fatal to the Yang ghost. It could also cause a serious burden to the Yin ghost. But this was not enough. In the void filled with poisonous fog, a huge handprint stretched out from the universe. It was like the scene of killing the Devil King. It was a pity that those warriors who were fighting couldn't see it. They were just shocked by the terrifying power released from the thick poisonous fog. This Ling Xiao. He can even use poison. The Yin ghost's face suddenly darkened. Yang ghost, where are you? He wanted to save people. Even he was very afraid of such a strong poison, let alone the Yang ghost. If he had known that Ling Xiao was so terrifying. Thus, he decided to fight alone. He really didn't expect that a warrior at the peak of the 9th level of the core-shattering realm would be so weak in front of Ling Xiao, who had the same cultivation. No wonder even the human Devil King was killed by Ling Xiao. Yin ghost, don't worry about me. Be careful of that boy's sneak attack. Ah. It's so painful. It would have been better if Yang ghost hadn't shouted, but her shout caused a poisonous fog to instantly enter her nose and mouth. Then it rushed into her body. It began to corrode her body faster. Ling Xiao looked at all this indifferently. In the 9-snake poison domain, only he could see everything clearly. Tyrant Universe's sky-covering handprint. Finally, the sky-covering handprint containing the power of the Tyrant martial soul fell down. It smashed fiercely at the Yin ghost. He was not afraid of the Yang ghost at all. The 9-snake poison domain could deal with it. The only trouble now was the Yin ghost. Although the 9-snake poison domain was a threat to the Yin ghost, it could not kill or even seriously injure her. Boom! The terrifying handprint fell. The whole ground was shattered. The martial artists fighting in the surroundings all stopped and dodged to the side. At this time, the poisonous fog in the 9-snake poison domain gradually dispersed. The Yin ghost stood there with a gloomy face. Her arms were still bleeding non-stop. The Yang ghost had already disappeared. Only Ling Xiao knew where she went. The inner core was naturally used to increase the giant Devil King's strength. The combination of the Yang ghost and the human Devil King's inner core could definitely nurture a divine body realm giant devil. This would be of great help to Ling Xiao's survival in the future. You killed her? The Yin ghost stared at Ling Xiao. It felt like a dream. He thought that he was already in time to deal with Ling Xiao. But when he really attacked, he realized. It was already too late. The current Ling Xiao had already reached an uncontrollable level. It was already very difficult to kill him. It's your turn now. Ling Xiao was not surprised that the Yin ghost was not killed in one strike. The other party was a true divine body realm expert. She was even more terrifying than the human Devil King. That strike could injure her, but it definitely could not kill her. He actually killed the young ghost? The hearts of the Yu family members trembled violently. The young ghost, the Yu family martial artist who lived in the dark. No one even knew her real name. But what was certain was that she had done a lot for the Yu family. She was also very famous in the dark. Countless martial artists would tremble at the mention of the young ghost. But such a person actually died in the hands of Ling Xiao. It was simply like a dream. Ling Xiao is really terrifying. The Yu family martial artist's hearts trembled violently. He killed the young ghost and injured the Yin ghost with just one strike. This was not something that a core fragmentation realm martial artist could do at all. Even a first-level divine body realm martial artist would not be able to do this. After all, the Yin ghost was a first-level divine body realm martial artist. Not to mention the others, even Yu Patian was stunned at this moment. Please remember the domain name of this book. Let's all read it on mobile. Chapter 4308. Yu Patian didn't have time to help Yu Xiangtian and the others deal with the Flame Emperor. However, he was stunned by the situation on this side. His expression was extremely ugly. He thought that with the strength of Young Ghost and Yin Ghost, he could easily kill Ling Xiao. Nothing unexpected would happen at all. However, reality gave him a slap in the face. It was a very painful slap. When he came back to his senses and wanted to rescue Young Ghost, he had already lost the best opportunity. Hateful brat, if you don't die, I'm afraid you will forever be my Yu family's nightmare. Yu Patian turned around, and his killing intent once again pounced on Ling Xiao, and it was even stronger than before. If Ling Xiao was only a genius at the peak of the Earth Core realm, then it would be fine. In order not to offend the City of Gold, he wouldn't easily touch Ling Xiao. However, it was different now. The current Ling Xiao was no longer a mere peak Earth Core realm cultivator. Instead, he was a terrifying existence that could pose a serious threat to the foundation of the Yu family. This kind of person couldn't be left alive. Ling Xiao looked at Yu Patian contemptuously and said with a smile, "Don't you want my physical body? I'm right here, you can take it." Ling Xiao's words made the hearts of those neutral martial artists tremble. What an arrogant brat. He wasn't even afraid of the Yu family's ancestor. It didn't matter if he could win in the end. However, this kind of momentum was really admirable. Yu Potion's face was obviously stiff. He was the dignified ancestor of the Yu family. The most powerful existence in the Fengdu Devil Kingdom was actually provoked by a brat who was still wet behind the ears. This was a really shameful thing. No, it wasn't just shameful, it was humiliating. It was humiliating. Reckless thing! Yu Patian slowly walked over, his eyes fixed on Ling Xiao as he said, "Previously, I said that I wanted to obtain your physical body. However, I give up now. Just wait for this old man to grind your bones to dust. Only then can this old man vent the anger in his heart." Ling Xiao's gaze suddenly turned cold. "By saying this, you're pushing me to the opposite side of the Yu family. I originally only wanted to save my sister Jiao Jiao and make her the successor of the demon sovereign. But now I can tell you that as long as I, Ling Xiao, don't die, you won't die. Your Yu family will never have a day of peace. Until it was completely destroyed. We won't rest until we're dead." "Ha ha!" Yu Patian laughed wildly. "Do you think you'll have another chance like this? You won't survive today. The people who fought against my Yu family with you also won't be able to live." Yu Patian released a murderous aura that almost tore apart the thunderclouds in the sky. In front of Ling Xiao, Yu Patian was as majestic and terrifying as the Thunder Mountain. But so what? Wasn't Lei Shan also under his feet now? It's good to win. So be it. He had no other choice. Whether he was afraid or not, this battle of life and death was unavoidable. Even if he knelt down and begged for mercy now, the Yu family still wouldn't let him off. Since that was the case, he would kill him to his heart's content. The neutral martial artists, who were originally low in morale, were also affected by Ling Xiao's indomitable fighting spirit. Everyone had a determined look on their faces. That's right, what was there to be afraid of? From the day they started practicing martial arts, they had already disregarded life and death. Death was lighter than a goose feather, heavier than a mountain. Right now, the only way to make his death more worthwhile was to resist. Is there any point? Senseless hot-bloodedness will only make you die faster. Yu Potion's lips curled into a disdainful and cold smile. Ling Zhao's fighting spirit made him very unhappy. Therefore, he had to kill this kid as soon as possible. Otherwise, the more he looked at him, the more unhappy he would be. He might even die of anger. Ancestor, let me do it. I want to avenge young Ghost. Young Ghost roared. You! All right, I'll give you 10 minutes. If you can't kill him, give up immediately. Yu Patian glanced coldly at young Ghost. Then he said. Young Ghost had a strong desire to take revenge. His hatred for Ling Xiao was even greater than his. Moreover, he really had more important things to do now. On the other side, the Lulu cult leader was sent flying by the Fire King's punch and was seriously injured. The situation was very bad. Yu Patian had to go over and help. I don't need 10 minutes. I'll take this kid's life in 3 minutes. Yan Ghost was completely annoyed. Previously, he was injured by Ling Xiao purely because he underestimated his opponent and cared about Young Ghost. But now, he had no more worries. Young Ghost had already died in battle. He only needed to focus on avenging Young Ghost. There was no need to think about anything else. In the next moment, a demonic shadow appeared behind him. This demonic shadow turned into a pitch-black pool of ink. In the pool of ink, 9 black heads poked out. At a glance, one could tell that it was not a simple martial soul. Young Ghost was indeed going to be ruthless. In the next moment, he stepped lightly on the ground and shot towards Ling Xiao like lightning. His strength was far stronger than Ling Xiao's. Therefore, there was no need to pay attention to any tricks. He just needed to attack. Slash! Ling Xiao roared. The East Victory God Fiend's sword in his hand condensed the power of the God Fiend's sword soul and slashed down crazily. A tyrannical aura roared down. A ruthless Young Ghost was incomparably terrifying. Ling Xiao did not even have time to prepare any moves. He could only hurriedly swing the East Victory God Fiend's sword with both hands and slash down. Boom! A distorted force appeared in the space. Their attacks collided. A force that was like a flying mountain smashed onto Ling Xiao's body. The sword light instantly dimmed. The East Victory God Fiend's sword almost fell out of his hand. Ling Xiao's body flew out like a falling meteorite. The gap was still too big. Even if he could temporarily use the power of a peak 9th stage core fragmentation realm. But the other party was at the divine body realm. An entire realm higher than him. This was no joke. Whether it was the other party's strength or the brilliance of his martial skills, they far surpassed him. Bah! Ling Xiao spat out a mouthful of black blood. Damn, he's really strong. Buzz! Behind the Young Ghost, a 9-headed monster appeared. That was the true form of his martial soul. The 9 heads were embedded in a body that looked like a monster. Each head emitted a sinister gaze. It made one's hair stand on end. Legend has it that once the Young Ghost's martial soul is released, someone must die. Ling Xiao is really going to die this time. Unfortunately, he met a divine body realm expert. Many neutral martial artists sympathized with Ling Xiao. It could even be said that they looked forward to it. After all, the Yu family's actions in this battle were too despicable. Not only did they want to kill Ling Xiao, but they also wanted to kill them. Naturally, they hoped that Ling Xiao could win. Ling Xiao looked coldly at the strange martial soul. In terms of martial souls, who could be stronger than his tyrannical martial soul? Not including the tyrannical martial soul. His beast god martial soul was also above everyone in the Black Tortoise continent. Kill! Ling Xiao did not retreat. This was an excellent opportunity to train himself. Genius 1 second. Remember this site address. Mobile version reading website.